Brick on the wall. That's it for me. Thanks for the support this last couple of weeks. Lee is back with you on Tuesday morning. Have a great bank holiday weekend. Going to hand you over to Greg. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Marty. Brilliant job the last couple of weeks.
Cheers. Thank you.
You're off air tonight. They're not going to make work tonight.
No, they let me have Friday off.
Okay, good stuff.
Cheers,
Chat
Greg.
to you soon, Marty. Okay, it is the 9 Til Noon Show. We'll introduce our Friday panel to you very shortly. But let's get a news update, and it's over to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The chairperson of the Donegal Diabetes Group says he felt he had a positive meeting with the Health Minister yesterday afternoon. Paul Gillespie says that due to the poor provisions of type 1 diabetes care in the county, many people with the disorder end up in hospital from complications. There's been persistent issues in filling 2 endocrinologist positions at Letterkenny University Hospital. Mr Gillespie says he feels that Minister Jennifer Carroll McNeill took on board his concerns.
So she has committed to come back to us, and she didn't put a timeline on it, but she has an awful lot of questions to ask all the different previous. Why has Letterkenny never got the resources? Why has it fallen so far behind? So she has committed to come back to us. So we'll give her a few weeks now because she's new in the post, and I say it is her first interim meeting, but we believe it was quite positive.
The NAMA boss has withdrawn his name for consideration for any role within the new Housing Activation Office. The possibility that Brendan McDonagh would retain his current €430,000 salary in the new role became the subject of criticism from the opposition in the Dáil this week. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou MacDonald says another layer of bureaucracy, though, is not the answer to solving any housing crises.
It is not necessary to hire a housing czar to essentially job share with the Minister for Housing. The Minister for Housing now needs to pull up their socks and actually do their job.
A hosepipe ban will come into effect for the Milford Regional Public Water Supply at midnight on Tuesday and remain in place for 6 weeks. The water conservation order applies to customers in Milford, Kerrykeele and Ramelton. It comes following a long period of dry weather combined with a large increase in demand, leaving Lough Cullum the area's water source under severe stress. The order prohibits the use of garden hosepipes and other non-essential uses of water by domestic users, smoke appearing from it. Roman Catholic cardinals will begin the process of voting for a new pontiff next Wednesday. Irish people are more likely to have visited Spain than Donegal. While 74% of Irish people holiday abroad at least once a year, almost half of people in Ireland want to see and explore more of their own country. More than 1 in 5 would like to visit Donegal for the first time. And the findings have been revealed by a poll undertaken by Airbnb. Looking to weather now, a dry mix of cloud and sunny spells, highest temperatures of 12 to 14 with light or moderate north to northeast breezes. That's all for now from the news desk. Back with more at 10 o'clock.
Between packing, passports and racing to check in, holiday prep can be, well, pure chaos. But your travel money, that you can tick off long before you leave. Pop into your local post office today to sort your travel money in either cash or card instantly. Or sign up for a card in the An Post Money app and top up before you go. No commission on foreign currency, no need to pre-order, no fuss. Visit your local post office today. An Post Money, making better happen.
T's and C's apply. An Post Money currency card is issued by PPSE USA pursuant to licence by MasterCard International. PPSE USA is authorised by the National Bank of Belgium and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules. An Post is authorised by the Minister for Finance to provide foreign
Now,
currency.
it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 Til Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. 4 minutes past 9 on this Friday. It's the 2nd of May. You're very welcome along to the 9 Til Noon Show, and loads coming up on the show today. We have our Friday panel. I'll introduce them to you very shortly. Then after 10, Seamus Gunn's going to be answering your legal questions. We also have extensive coverage of the Health Minister's visit to Letterkenny yesterday. It was supposed to be a fleeting visit, but she ended up staying for quite some time. We're going to be speaking to those advocating for better cancer services as they went into that meeting, and then speaking to the Health Minister thereafter. That and so much more besides. We want your views, of course, throughout the course of this morning. 08660 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number, or you can give us a call on 074 91 25,000 and email comments at highlandradio.com. Of course, you can watch all of today's proceedings, as always, including our interviews with the cancer campaigners and the Health Minister, by watching the show on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, accessible on your smart TV and your Fire Stick as well, and across our Facebook pages and on X. John McAteer, editor of the Tyrconnell Tribune. Good morning, John.
Good morning to you, Greg.
I hope your hose pipe is well and truly tucked away.
Oh, give me head peace, would you?
We'll talk about that anon.
There's plenty cheap water in Lidl.
Yeah. You try washing your car with that. Emma Gova, the wee Donegal Mammy campaigner and advocate, I will call you. I don't know what you call yourself, but good morning, Emma. Nice to have you with us, as always.
Good morning, Greg.
And we have also with us Deputy Pater Tobin, leader of Ain't To. Good morning, Pater. Thanks so much for your time. Great to chat to you.
Thank you very much, Greg, for the opportunity.
No,
Appreciate
it's always good, and it's great for you to accept our invites. A couple of wee things to get through. We learnt yesterday that Donegal has more people on the register, the electoral register, than are actually entitled to vote. It's one of the most inaccurate registers in the county. It includes people who are dead, duplicates, redundant names, those that have moved away or whatever. I suppose as someone who seeks election, Pater, is this just a sort of an indication that the system is broken and we need to link to PPSs? Or, you'll hear some conversation online that, this could be used to, maybe manipulate the outcome of elections. I presume the latter, the numbers involved, the latter is not a concern, is it?
Yeah, first of all, it is incredible that the electoral register is so inaccurate. And it's amazing, we hear that there's such and such a turnout, in an election, 55%, maybe 60% turnout. But those turnout figures are inaccurate as well because they're based on an election register and that's incorrect. So what happens is, people move from house to house and they don't take themselves off the register in one place while they're adding themselves on the register in another place. Students move from one part of the country to another, people pass away, etc. I don't believe that there's any, let's say, systemic manipulation of those votes as such, but there probably is some messing about with those votes here and there in a very small fashion. And I do think that can have an effect sometimes where, we see where there can be only 4 or 5 votes in the difference in an election. The government should be cleaning those regularly. And there should be a method to go through 25% of the people on the register in every election cycle to make sure that they are registered in the right place and there's no duplicates allowed. Duplications, we have, they talk about AI and a high-tech country. It should be very easy to run names in an election register through a computer to find out where names are duplicated and then to contact those individuals and say, where are you living? Do you know what I mean?
Well, just there's people listening here. There's going to be those that get 2 voting cards. My dad got 2 voting cards for his entire life. And then there are those that get none because we know coming up to the election, people don't get a voting card. And then they go to the local register, they go to vote, and they're not actually even on the register. I mean, it's reported in one of the papers today that local authorities are going through listening to radio death notices or going through RIP.ie. I mean, that's crazy. What upsets me too is this presumed apathy, and you sort of reflected on that a little earlier on. I mean, if Donegal is one of the worst and we sort of give out about the amount of people that don't vote, well, how many of those were never going to vote because they don't exist as such? And then how many who want to vote aren't actually even receiving a polling card? So really, we've been working out bum figures.
Yeah, so those figures are completely inaccurate. And this kind of sentence that is said often after elections, God, there's, lack of engagement by the electorate. Look how low the vote is in a certain area. All of that is rubbish. We don't know what's accurate or not. One of the big frustrations I have in this country is we sell ourselves as a high-tech country all around the world. And yet, if you're a patient in a hospital, you don't have a designated digital number. We don't seem to be able to use any of the technology systems to integrate information that we have in relation to people. And it shouldn't be hard, for a software system to indicate when death notices are published, that then they're run through an electoral register system, and then it's brought to the attention of a staffer within the local authority who then checks to see if an individual passed away. And there should be some responsibility on families and individuals as well to make sure.
But it's very hard to get someone who's passed away off the electoral register. It would be
It is hard, but
if it was connected to your PPS. You see, as soon as you applied for your death cert or what have you, it would be automatically tied up. But I know as soon as you say that, Padder, and what you're saying is not incorrect, but people will say it's very upsetting. They're still getting the polling cards for someone who's deceased, and they're struggling to get them off the register. It's a common complaint, is why I mentioned it.
Greg, like, just to show you how crazy the whole technology system in Ireland is. I did an article this week about the number of appointments in hospitals that are being cancelled. There's hundreds and thousands of hospital, 300,000 hospital appointments cancelled. I know of people who are dead who received letters from hospitals to say that their operation has been cancelled and put onto another date. Our technology systems are not plugged in. We don't have details on individuals, and we're not sweating that asset at all in terms of trying to make sure everything on our lists are accurate.
John McAteer, we've talked about this in the past, and I'm sure you've thought about it because you're a number cruncher. You know, from what we've learned today and what you've known in the past, I wonder what the variance is, you know, between our official turnout and actually what would be the turnout with a proper tidied electoral register.
It's huge, quite honestly. In 2002, I wrote a front page story. I think just before that election, there was a grave possibility that there was going to be far more people voting in Donegal than we had resident here. And that has come to be true. There's two figures to look at there, and I suppose we have the census figure. That's the first one. We have a census figure for Donegal of 167,000 plus, yet we have an electorate of 131,306 plus. That would exclude South Donegal, that area south of Lahi. But we have a figure of 41,370 plus under 17s. And when you deduct that from the 167,000, you get 125,700. So, I mean, that is so confusing. There's something seriously wrong there. We would be doing a lot of checks on election day with maybe 40 to 50 polling stations. And the boys doing the number crunching at the polling station would tell you, you know, it's mid-afternoon now, there's about 34% turned out. But the real figure, when you exclude all those who shouldn't be on the register, is close to 50%.
I mean, that's massive.
And
that's
I mean,
massive.
At the last election, we were consistently at the close of poll getting figures for Donegal in the high 70s, and yet we were down on 59.7. So, Paddy, you must see that in Meath as well. Like, we have that in Donegal. Part of our county, 6 or 8 electoral areas straddle Sligo Leitrim. So they're excluded from this constituency. So that could make the figure about 120,000.
But also, ironically, the person that seems to always be in a tight battle and in a tight squeeze, and you've got the phone calls from her, is Mary T. Sweeney. You know, if I'm someone like her watching on, and you're in, I mean, we saw Reform last night win a seat by 6 votes. There was a recount because there was 4. So, you know, I mean, in the wider scale of things, it might not make a difference. But I'll tell you, when you're getting down to the nitty-gritties of the situation, it certainly can.
But like when you count 3 seats in Donegal that are pretty safe anyway, 2 Sinn Féin and 1 Fianna Fáil, one or the other of them, the other 2 seats are up for grabs. These votes could be very crucial to them. We have no way of knowing that. We can't second guess how people are voting or why they're voting or to what impact it might have if the electoral register is way out of kilter, which it has been for years. And there's simply no easy way. The best system for doing that was back in the day when every electoral area took possession and every electoral party took possession of every single vote. You'd go into revision courts and you had people in there with babies' birth certificates. They might be a day under or a day over 18 years of age. So everybody knew exactly in their own polling stations who was who. Now that's gone for 40 years, and with it, the officialdom that has come in to replace it has been a total failure. And I mean, what do you replace it with? PPS numbers? I mean, that person that has a PPS number could be in South Africa. Working, could be in New Zealand, mightn't ever be coming back again. So that's not going to tell you an awful lot. I don't know how you can identify somebody that's actually on the electoral register without going out and interviewing that person.
Yeah, but I would imagine with the PPS number, it would bring the margin of error or problems much narrower. And there's always going to be, you know, there could be people simply on holiday.
No, but all I'm saying is that a PPS number doesn't guarantee that you're in the country to vote.
No, it doesn't, of course, but okay. It means, though, we won't have duplicates, though, which seems to be a big problem. Emma, it's quite disappointing, isn't it? Because it makes you sort of question, question an awful lot.
Well, you see, the thing is, I mean, I probably wouldn't be as versed as the two gentlemen on your show with the facts and the figures in regards to turnouts for elections and so on. I suppose my advocacy is in a different area, but when you are advocating and you're trying to advocate for change in health services and disability services and so on, and you see the mismanagement really of the electoral register. I mean, I get 2 voting cards.
Well, see, that's it. I mean, we've got two people on the line from Donegal, and 50% of them get 2 voting cards.
Exactly. So, I mean, and I've contacted them personally myself to say, listen, I get one to my parents' house and I get one to my own home. I get one with my maiden name in my parents' house and one with my married name to my own home. And, I've contacted them a number of times to say this, and it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to get that sorted. But yet when the local, because I really kind of know, because I'm only in our new adapted home about a year and a half. And so when I rang them and said, listen, because I was originally getting 2 electoral cards with my maiden name and my married name at the previous house, and it was like, listen, now that I'm trying to really update this, when I got my polling card for the local election and for the European Parliament, and it was like, okay, yeah, we're definitely going to get that sorted. Thanks so much for letting us know. And then yet again, in the general election, I got one to my parents' house in my maiden name and one to my own house in my married name. And you kind of, so if it's hard enough for me as a person who is alive and being able to ring myself and say, listen, you're giving me 2 polling cards.
Yes, okay.
If you're dead and your family's trying to do it. And you hear it. I mean, and I read some of the comments under what Highland Radio had up last night. And people, it's very sensitive for them. And it's heartbreaking for them to try.
It's so tough. And Padder talked about the operations as well. I think that's even perhaps more so. There's a very I mean, we still get to the house.
I mean, the foundation of the whole system has to be the electoral register. We got the number of TDs is predicated on the figures from the electoral register. What if they're out by 500,000? We have no way of knowing that, because nowadays people are never at home. They're at work. Enumerators call around at various different times of the day and indeed late into the evening, but they don't get anybody about. How do they actually come to determine in huge blocks of flats all in towns all over the country who is in that flat or who isn't? Because at some point there has to be an estimate put against that address.
Padder, did you want to come in there finally? Sorry, and I'll come back to you, Emma. Padder, yep.
Yeah. Just you mentioned Mary T. Sweeney. Mary T. Sweeney is a long-term community campaigner in Donegal, and she missed out, I think, by about 110 votes or so in the last local election. And when you get down to numbers of that size, these do have real effects. And elections needs to be fair. It needs to be accurate. And, there's very little that you do in Ireland today that isn't registered somewhere. So when a person died, their death is registered. That should, that information needs to be shared. When a person even moves and, rental accommodation, and they register with the RTB. When a person buys a house and their local property tax is registered, all of these aspects of our lives are now registered in some digital format. And the fact that information is not being shared is absolutely incredible. We're talking about 305,000 too many entries on this particular document. The other problem I think we have is that I personally think that it should be one national register, because when you have every local authority carrying out their own register, that leaves massive opportunities for people to be registered all over the place.
Yeah, it can be hit and miss. I get where you're coming from in different areas. And last point to you, Emma.
I just wanted to go back to what John had said there about, the PPS number that a person could be, in South Africa or New Zealand. And I just want to say, I actually really agree with John on that, because we've seen that during COVID and the pandemic unemployment benefit, there was a small minority of people who weren't even residing in Ireland who were able to claim the pandemic unemployment benefit by using their PPS number, even though they were living abroad in the likes of Australia and places like that. And those cases then came to the fore when this was then discovered. So I don't know if the PPS number is the right way to go, because PPS number isn't necessarily.
The only thing is you can go to an area of Donegal and there could be there could be 7 Michael Gallaghers in 4 houses in 3 acres. How do you determine between them?
We have a public services card. I probably use it about every 3 years when I'm looking for a driving license. What was the purpose of that meant to be, Padre?
The public services card was,
Yeah.
I think that was brought in by Regina Doherty, if I'm correct. And at that stage, there was a desire to, by the government to, I suppose, create a digital identity for individuals as they consumed public services. But there's no doubt that we do have to get to a situation where individuals have a digital identity. It has to happen within the health service, and it has to happen within social welfare provision as well. And it has to happen with checks and balances to make sure that people feel that their GDPR is still respected, and that they are in no way can their vote be traced, etc. Because it's a hallowed right, the democratic right to vote, and we need to make sure that there is no chance of the state or anybody else being able to track.
All right, for you to have an opinion on that, I believe you must have your Google geolocation services switched off. If you don't, they know everything that you're doing. Don't be worried about what the government knows, okay? Right, we'll be back with much more from our guests after these.
Cupra. People tend to become obsessed. What is it? Where do I find it? How do I get one? And the new Cupra range will only increase that sense of desire, with power options from petrol and diesel to plug-in hybrid and full electric. Experience the new Leon, the new Formentor, and the new all-electric Born VZ. Available now with exclusive offers. That thing you feel? It's called obsession. Visit CupraOfficial.ie.
Your local Cupra dealer is DMG Motors, Clar Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 97 21396.
Summer sounds at Harvey's Point. Every Wednesday from May the 21st until June the 25th, a magical evening of music, song and dance from some of Ireland's greatest stars. Gourmet dinner, the warmest of welcomes. Don't delay. Book today. harveyspoint.com or 074 972 2208. That magical evening on the shores of Loch Esk awaits.
Shop local at Doherty Super Value Carndonagh. We proudly support local jobs, sporting organisations, tidy towns and stock local suppliers. Every euro spent helps build a stronger community. Thank you for choosing local. Thank you for choosing Doherty Super Value Carndonagh.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The time now, 23 minutes past 2. It is Friday. That's entertainment coming up a little bit later. We'll also hear from cancer campaigners and the Health Minister from the Health Minister's visit to Donegal yesterday. Tomorrow, peaceful demonstration against so-called illegal immigration takes place in Letterkenny, with organisers expecting up to 2,000 people to attend, maybe even Conor McGregor. Apparently, if he turns up, he's going to be the keynote speaker. An anti-racism group has organised a counter-protest. They're self-styled as that. We did see a demonstration in Dublin last week. Big turnout there. Others being planned elsewhere. Emma Gover, I'll start with you. What are your views on such protests? And do you believe change is needed? And if so, do you think these will deliver change?
You know, when I seen this email from Caroline and I seen that this is what we would be discussing, I was almost going to call in sick. But because
say as much as you want to say, you're not obliged to. You know, I mean,
no.
You
know what? It's no. Don't get me wrong. It's just that it's such a divisive issue at the moment. And you know, I think back on to when this really started coming to the fore before the local election, and you're always going to offend somebody no matter what you say. That's just reality. And you know, in the space of 6 months, I had gone from being labelled a left-wing woke hippie who wanted open borders to being a conservative right-wing against women's rights. And I'm neither. I would call myself a moderate. I don't, and I think it's important to say this, you know, I don't agree with open borders. That doesn't make me a racist to say that. I believe we need immigration control. You know, every country does. That's just fact. And I'm married to somebody who is a non-national now. He has not emigrated, as in lives permanently in this country, because he's working abroad. And he has worked abroad for a number of years, because you have to go where the work is. But the reality is, it's different for us to discuss it, because it almost comes across like we have an agenda because I'm married to a non-national, but I don't. And I believe in immigration control. And if you spoke to my husband, he would tell you he believes in immigration control. You have to have immigration control.
I think sometimes there can be a presumption that, people who aren't originally from here, that are living here, instantly think that you don't need immigration control. That's not my experience. I've spoken to quite a number of people, because I was curious, in the health sector elsewhere, working in IT, and they're here working legally, and they also have concerns about numbers, vetting, and such.
Absolutely. And
I don't think it's a racial question for a lot of people.
No, and it's been snowballed into this. Now, don't get me wrong, and I will say this, that there are agitators within communities who are using it to their advantage to stir up their own personal beliefs. But I remember when they were holding a protest, and somebody who'd be a good friend of mine said to me, why were you talking to them protesters? Why were you talking to people like that? And I said, because if you don't keep the lines of dialogue open, how do you know what people are worried about? How do you know what they're concerned about? Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody says something that is extremely offensive or racist to me, then all lines of communication will then be ceased.
But I've concluded that there are elements that don't want this conversation. They say the mainstream media won't talk about this, but as soon as you do start to talk about it, you actually get twice as much as abuse as if you didn't. And sometimes I think sometimes maybe the conversation they don't want the conversation actually to be had out into the open, because it normalizes it. I don't know what the motivation is. It's only a sense I have.
But I believe we have to have this discussion. And if we look at, I believe we should be able to discuss immigration, but I believe it needs to be done in a sensitive. And when I say sensitive, people say, "Oh, woke." I don't, but I mean, like we have to understand that we are thought by human beings too. And so it needs to be done in a diplomatic and sensitive way. That doesn't mean that we can't enforce a fair but efficient immigration service. And let's be honest, it's not efficient.
No, the government themselves, some of the language the government uses now would have been deemed far right, in inverted commas, 2 years ago. I mean, the Minister for Justice is coming out now celebrating. It's a PR stunt that 40 people, including 7 children, have been sent away in a plane. That would be unimaginable a couple of years ago. Let's get some more views on this. Pater Tobin, what's your say?
Yeah, so we've always said in Nine Til that we do have to have a proper discussion in relation to this. If you don't discuss this, it just pushes the issue underground. And when it's underground, it gets, used by the ne'er-do-wells for their own purposes. So open, respectful discussion in relation to immigration is very, very necessary. We've always stated that we believe that where people are fleeing actual war and violence, we should do our best to provide shelter for them. But it's incredible that, even the figures from the government now are showing that 80% of people who are seeking asylum in this state are actually now failing on their first application. And that's happened because the government's process to date has been chaotic. And the government has sent a message out that if you come to Ireland, first of all, your application will take 5, 6, 7 years to be processed. Then if you fail that, you can go to the High Court and receive an injunction for a number of more years. If you fail that and get a deportation order, you're 80% likely not to be deported or removed from the country. The government has no exit checks on the borders, so they don't know who leaves the country. So they've had a voluntary deportation system. The government, Nine Til found out that 80% of people coming to Ireland are coming from Britain via the north of Ireland. And Britain is a safe country. And when I was asking the previous Minister for Justice this question over a period of 2 years, she said she didn't know where they were coming from because they weren't asking where they were coming from. 5,000 people came to Dublin Airport a couple of years ago without travel documents. They flew from European airports.
Well, Michael O'Leary himself has said, they're flushing their documents in the toilets of the planes. There's nothing we can do.
Absolutely. So, and that's against the law. And the government were not enforcing the law when it came to that. So that's why people
Yeah,
are
but
so
when
frustrated.
it might be against the law, but as soon as you step foot on Irish soil and claim asylum, you're no longer an
You're no
illegal
longer
immigrant.
illegal.
You know, this protest is about illegal immigration. That's why I said so-called. The system is such that as soon as you set foot, you are then in a process. You are being processed. You're not an illegal in this country.
Yeah, so the solution is to make sure that that process is really speedy. So the solution is to make sure that people are processed within a 3-month period from start to finish, so that they're not languishing in IPAS centres, for 3, 4, 5 years.
And
for example.
even as soon any little bit of effort the government makes to tighten things up does have an impact on the level of people trying to get here.
It does, and here's the thing as well, and this is really important. If the government communicates that they're going to implement a very strict system, what happens is those individuals who are not fleeing war and violence, who are using the system for economic purposes, they say to themselves, well, what's the point in coming to Ireland, because I'm unlikely to get through that system. And then the positive about that is the numbers applying start to fall very significantly. Now, right now, about 15% of hotels outside of the M50 are in a contract with the state. That's incredible. So that means, your downstream tourism income of cafes and restaurants and adventure centres, etc., they're all being significantly negatively impacted because of the fact that those hotels are used in terms of IPAS. So, instead of sending a message out that the Irish system is so open to abuse, that soft touch, we need to send a message out internationally to say our system is very strict. Only come to Ireland if you're actually fleeing war and violence.
John McAteer, I want your views on that as well, but I want to throw into this also the fact that, and this is a fact, that IPAS is big business. We see 16, 17 live applications for IPAS centres in every nook and cranny in Donegal. Now, many that I was able to come across were seeking Section 5 exemptions, and not in fairness to the council, in reality, the council refused most of those. So we don't know what happens next. Do they seek planning application or what have you? But these are a small group of companies from down the country, effectively, people that are raking in tens and tens of millions of euro. How are they finding out about properties in every corner of Donegal? How are they going through all these processes to know how all that works? It's all, but there's an awful lot of money being made by this. In the private sector, and of course, the government are handing out the checks as well. So, firstly, in terms of the demonstration and what do you believe drove that, but also the fact that this is a big business, and a lot of this stuff is happening outside of the public's gaze. And people in small communities are finding out that a 6-bedroomed guest house is now all of a sudden being earmarked for an IPAS centre. And it's not the government seeking them out; it's private business people seeing opportunities here, John.
If you're in that business, you will find the opportunities, because you'll find the agents at every crossroads and every corner of Ireland to do so. We have 1,805 people in IPAS centres right now. It's not a huge big number compared to 3 or 4 years ago when you had the Ukrainians and you had 6,000 or 7,000 in Donegal. First of all, you asked me the question about the protest. By all means, protest. We're a democracy. We're entitled to protest. As Goretti Sheridan, the Chief Super, said, as long as it's in a peaceful, dignified manner. And there's no reason that they shouldn't protest. It's only 5 months since we had a full opportunity for everybody to have a say. We had 3 hectic weeks of an election campaign. The far-right movement did not register very much at that. So at this point, it is that particular group that's driving this agenda. I have no issues with them whatsoever. And by all means, let them come out and let us see how many of them turn up, and let us hear what they're actually saying, because some of the stuff that we're getting on social media doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, the thing is though, you see, it's a spectrum. Okay, so some of the people that you talk of that ran for election were very, very extreme in their views. Some of them weren't, right? But then you have people like Emma and many others that have contacted us who recognise that there are issues, who recognise there are parts of Letterkenny that people aren't safe going into, not necessarily because anything is happening, but you've got large groups of young men who are gathering and people feel unsafe in relation to that. So what is the difference then? What's the difference then between people who are extreme and perhaps feel there's a plantation going in a cultural replacement versus those who welcome hardworking people coming into the country, making their way in life, but want some level of restriction. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I believe people haven't got elected, because it all gets blown into the one thing.
There is this view that the government has an agenda to get rid of as many Irish people as possible because they're costing too much to have them here. So we bring on all these other nationalities and pay them peanuts to do our work for us. There's no truth in any of that agenda, actually. That's absolute totally rubbish. But like, they do have that right to protest. But I mean, a lot of the sentiment that they're expressing doesn't bear up to any decent analysis.
Like, Pater, if I put it to you, you people might go, right, ain't to Pater Tobin, he speaks quite strongly on immigration and all. I like what he's saying. He is running a candidate whose skin's not white. All of a sudden, he's a plant or something. Do you know what I mean? That's the space we're in. It can be very. It's very complicated.
It is a dangerous space because, for example, we ran two candidates who were from outside of Ireland. One was from India, but he'd been living in this country for 25 years, and he had massive contributions to society and lived a good, cohesive life in this country right up until about 2 years when things started to get nasty in certain places. And the danger is now you do have people of different colour skins, and they're they could be at the bus stop going to work or to school, and people are coming up to them in this environment and telling them to F off back home to their home country. And that's the really scary element of what's happening at the moment. So I think it's up to people like AIM to show leadership to people, to show leadership to say, yes, there is a problem. There is a chaotic government response. These are the solutions to make sure that we make the system stricter, that we reduce the numbers, that we still allow for a bit of common decency and humanity in terms of helping people who are in need, but also making sure that people here can live safe and productive lives if they happen to have different colour skin or of a different ethnicity as well. That's where the leadership needs to be shown. And I do think the right to protest is a human right and it's a democratic right. So that needs to be stood up for. And I do think many of the people who we saw maybe protesting last Saturday are people who had genuine concerns. My worry to a certain extent is that there's very little organisation behind these marches. Like, if, for example, the right to water or the protests in terms of the taxes on homes, the people who organised those set up maybe 5 different objectives. And everybody who agreed to those 5 different objectives could then confidently protest, knowing that this is what they're signing up for. This exactly is what they're marching for. My worry, and this is why I'm a little bit cautious sometimes, is that we don't have that in terms of these marches. I'm not sure exactly.
I was speaking to people and have been on the show who intend to go along because they feel that their communities don't have the resources or the facilities to accept large groups of young men. Often they don't know their backgrounds because their documentations have been destroyed. But they're concerned that there's going to be a chance like get them out, send them home, and that type of stuff. And that's not what they're subscribed to, because 50% of the hospital staff down there went home would be banjaxed because they are hardworking people from all over the world.
Can I just come in on that, Greg? There was a study done in the run up to the general election there, and an Ipsos survey done that said that, and the way they worded it said less than 50% of people said immigration would be a serious contender for what they would vote for. When it was around 43%, so it's just shy of the 50%. But for a lot of people, the major issues were healthcare, housing, and cost of living. So it's very hard for people then, when we see all of these things, as John's saying, being talked about on social media. And the thing about social media is, sometimes I hark back to the time of COVID, and they were saying she's COVID in Ireland. Absolutely not. I have children who are medically vulnerable. I took it very seriously. But we kind of lost our sense of empathy with other people because we were told to stay away from each other so that we could all come together again. So we've all become very social media aware and things like that. But sometimes I find the more social media aware you become, maybe more empathy we lose.
The only thing is, I get where you're coming from, and the likes of you and myself would be active in the social media space, but these conversations are actually happening not on Facebook. They're happening sort of
Well, you
at
see,
the
this
kitchen
is it.
table
So
and in the front rooms. And
what
like
I
I
wanted
know,
to get to was
go
there was
ahead,
a
Emma.
vacuum.
Yeah.
There was a vacuum of space there where people felt that they weren't being there was no dialogue, and they weren't being listened to, and they weren't being they weren't being involved in the process. They were basically told, this is what's happening in your area, and that's it. And then with that comes a vacuum where certain people can come in and say, listen, I'm going to listen to your concerns. Now, I know I'll probably face backlash, and people will say, oh, as somebody who is married to a non-national, how can you say that people have everybody has the right to protest? The thing is, you're either for free speech or you're not, and free speech includes speech that you don't necessarily like, providing that it's not inciting violence, providing that it's not inciting hatred. Then you can't very well say that, it's free speech, but only free speech for what I want to hear. That's not free speech.
Yeah,
we live in a democracy.
Yeah, indeed. And that's it. It's just really the tone and nature of it, because it's possible that people might leave if they feel that it's not really aligned to what they... And I also, too, don't want to presume what people who aren't from here originally, what they think about immigration. We can't presume that either. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break. Paddy, did you indicated there is the one other point that you just wanted to make? Sorry.
Yeah, just to say that in relation to these marches, and just to agree with yourself, there are many good people who have concerns who are attending these marches, but there is unfortunately that difficulty where people go along and they do hear chants such as like get them out, and I do think that puts a lot of people off as well. And I would just encourage the individuals who are organising these marches, that if they're going to organise them, to make sure that they're respectfully engaging on the issues. They have the freedom of speech to be able to engage in the issues, but they don't let a small minority take over and give a bad name and ruin it for everybody.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll be back in 3 minutes with more from our guests.
They say time equals money, so spend your money where you spend your time. No matter what your preference is, Cooney's Home Interiors has something to suit every taste and budget. With our extensive range of home furnishing to fit every room and style, from mattresses and beds to rugs, mirrors and suites of furniture. Visit us in store today and see for yourself what Cooney's have to offer, and let us help you make your dream home a reality. Cooney's Home Interiors, Letterkenny Retail Park. Huge range, great prices.
Tesco Club Card gives you the power to more, helping you make summer mealtime special. Bring the family together with 3 for 2 across 23 finest barbecue meats, like juicy and flavourful Irish Angus quarter pounders, and our made-for-sharing sweet and smoky Irish lamb kebabs. Or add something sweet and savoury with our Korean-style Irish corn-fed chicken thai king kebabs. Get more from your shop with your Tesco Club Card or app. Shop in-store or online. Tesco. Every little helps. Available in most stores. Prices vary in Express.
For expert advice to help you feel well and stay well, call to our friendly team at Brennan's Pharmacy Letterkenny. Choose from quality nutritional ranges like NutriBurst, Dr. Claire and Together Health. Easy free parking across from Costa at the new Dunn stores. We want to help you live well and stay well at Brennan's Pharmacy Letterkenny. We're here for you.
Ready to order your 252 Nissan? Then get to iMotors Letterkenny from Thursday, May 15th to Sunday, May 18th. Explore the exciting new Nissan range with cutting-edge tech, bold design and unbeatable value. We're taking 252 orders now. Your perfect car built your way. Saturday 10 to 5, Sunday 12 to 4. Don't miss it.
iMotors, fearless generation. It's easy to feel trapped when you're dealing with mortgage arrears. The worry, sleepless nights, the impact on you and your family. But there is a way out.
Welcome. Come on in.
At Awalia, our door is always open. We're here to help and ready to listen. Get free, confidential support and practical advice to help you take control of the situation by visiting mabs.ie/Awalia. That's mabs.ie/Awalia, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Celebrate your love at the award-winning Villa Rose Hotel and Spa Ballybuffet. The elegant Capri Suite hosts up to 300 guests with a private garden and romantic stone cottage for unforgettable wedding photos. Experience exceptional service that turns your dream wedding into reality. Visit villarose.ie to start planning.
The
Easy Living Furniture annual roadshow sale has been extended but must end this bank holiday Monday. Absolutely everything has been reduced across all departments, including sofas, dining, bedroom mattresses, and even our new garden furniture collection. Plus, we're offering interest-free finance, making it even easier to shop for the home of your dreams, and free delivery on all garden furniture orders. It's the last weekend to save at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry.
Ahead of the busy summer season, why not have your children's eyes checked at Louis Walsh Opticians in Letterkenny? Right now, when you buy one pair of children's glasses, you'll get a second pair free. Some terms and conditions apply. See the full range of glasses at Louis Walsh Opticians in the Courtyard Shopping Centre, Letterkenny.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Get set for summer with all new arrivals dropping every week, from fashion to footwear and homeware to cosmetics. Discover more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Okay, let's look at that weather forecast, and I can tell you that today will be a dry with a mix of cloud and sunny spells. Highest temperatures of 12 to 14 degrees with light or moderate north to northeast breezes. Weather's decent. Not much rain over the next couple of days, and not much rain into next week either, as a high pressure sticks around Donegal. And according to Ishk Erin, we've had low rainfall. We're just into May, and we have the introduction of 3 hose pipe bans across the country, one in the Milford area, with supplies running low this early in what seems to be a wet country. What does it say about our infrastructure? John McAteer, that's if you've got anything to say on this at all.
Plenty to say on it, because
I know.
We live in Milford, for only a few years ago since we got a state-of-the-art new treatment processing plant that is supposed to be good for the next 50 years. And the water source, for some reason, has literally collapsed, and it has been that way now for about 18 months, and it's shown no great sign of recovery. It was about 10 to 11 feet of a height. Now it's down probably under a foot. It has been that way for a long, long time. I don't know if that's related to the scarcity of water, or that the system has been overdriven. Like we had a system like that out in my own parish here in Fannet 40 years ago, the best supply in Ireland, but it was overdriven to the extent that it collapsed, and it took a long, long time for it to come back to any extent. But I mean, it isn't that we've had totally dry weather like Caribbean for the past 6 months. It has lashed day after day after day, and I'm just looking out on my own Shannon Lake here. It's at a high level for this time of the year that I haven't seen in 30 years. So I don't know where they're coming from with all this stuff. I say at the end of the day, Erin doesn't have the kind of money, or there isn't the kind of system there that's going to do. You look at all the outages around Letterkenny. We don't have a system that's going to deal with this, because the money needed has not been put into it. Erin has been, obviously, they're getting a fair shot of money, but they're being starved of money to replace those pipes.
We might get time to talk about housing in a moment. These are the biggest issues in terms of housing, the actual infrastructure, some of the biggest issues. Padder, I mean, obviously, we take water off the surface. You go to Spain, Portugal, countries with much dry climates, and they find ways of sourcing water in a more consistent manner. But I mean, it doesn't bode well, does it, this early in the summer?
Yes, there is a couple of things here. So there's no doubt that rain is about 28% lower over the last 7 months than it normally is. Now, I've noticed, actually, I keep an eye on these things. I've noticed that weather patterns have changed somewhat over the last 7 to 10 years. When I was younger, we used to just get lashed with weather fronts coming off the Atlantic over and over and over again, nonstop. And that seems to be different. There seems to be a high pressures seem to dwell a little longer around the country. It's interesting that there's 3 counties, there's Meath, Donegal, and Westmeath receiving the host pipe ban. We've been told that Loch Columcille, which supplies Milford and Donegal, is at one of its lowest levels, we're told, for a long period of time. And you're right in terms of, in Meath, for example, most of the water comes out of the Boyne, while actually half of the volume of that river is now consumed for water supply, while in other countries, what they access is aquifers. So the waters come from deep aquifers under the ground, which are much more stable and much less likely to vary in terms of supply. But the major problem here is, for the last 15 years, Ireland has been second from the bottom in terms of infrastructural spend. So only Romania has beaten us to last place in terms of infrastructural spend. So we've spent practically nothing on strengthening our infrastructure, and water is just one of those major gaps at the moment. And the reason that that's happened is because every time there's an election, what happens, I believe, is Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, they get this lovely kind of lovely medal, kind of shining medal of a tax cut, and they dangle it in front of people's eyes. They hypnotize people, and they win the elections in terms of a tax cut. Well, most people actually, I believe, would like to see taxes being spent properly in developing real infrastructure in terms of water, housing, transport, etc. And that hasn't happened. And then the last point I would say is on the issue of infrastructure, it has ramped up a little bit in the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm thankful for that. But this government is disastrous in terms of delivery. It is glacial in terms of speed, and the costs are ballooning out of proportion, and there's nobody being held to account. And that's been one of the big platforms that AIM2 has stood on in the last 2 years, is to try and hammer that accountability, because unless we get it together in terms of actually delivering that infrastructure, we're all going to feel a pinch in terms of housing, in terms of water, in terms of transport over the next 5 to 10 years.
Gova.
I was just thinking about all the times that Councillor Jack Murray has had to put up there to water outage in Inishowen. So it's not just Milford. I'd say it's just pure lack of investment in the infrastructure. I mean, we can't manage the infrastructure we have. And we're in a housing crisis, as we know, and we need to upgrade the infrastructure to be able to deal with the housing crisis. But we can't even deal with what we've got now. I mean, literally, I've lost counting in the show how many times we've heard this. There's a water outage in the Bray area and Fawn. There's a water outage between Burnfosh and Bridgend, and it's all to do with system upgrades. And it's just pure lack of investment, to be quite honest. And I keep harping back to, if they can't manage what we've got now, how are they going to deal with putting in infrastructure for the houses that we need to deal with the housing crisis?
Well, in relation to the housing crisis, Brendan McDonagh's withdrawn his name from consideration to become Ireland's housing czar following criticism. The announcement came after strong questioning of a mooted €430,000 salary to become chief executive of the government's new housing activation office. Is that the solution? Another highly paid civil servant? They'll sort it out, Emma.
No. Listen, I don't mean to be rude, but this seems like, I'm such a cynic this morning. That's what it just feels like another job for the boys, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to be rude, because I know I'm the only girl here on with you this morning, but that's what it feels like. At the end of the day, I mean, hiring this, when I read this, I was absolutely baffled when I seen this housing czar. I thought, is that not what the Minister for Housing is supposed to do? Is that not his job? Why do we need a housing czar? It's like job sharing. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we don't need job sharing. We need him to do the job that he is being highly paid for, that he is going to get a pension for. That's his job. And then it was it's a slap on the cheek, really, for the 15,000+ homeless that has been increasing at 11.1% per year. To them to say, we have a housing minister who's going to sort this out for us, but listen, he also needs this boy to do it with him, and we're going to be giving him we're going to let him keep us almost £500,000 a year. It's ridiculous.
I have to move along because we're getting close to it, but Pater, I mean, you do a survey of the public, no one's going to say we need this. Why? Who comes up with these ideas, or what's your view generally, rather than a direct question?
Yes, 2 quick points. I also think one of the pressures we're on in terms of water and housing, for example, is the fact that we're adding about 150,000 people to the population every year. It's the population of, let's say, Galway being added to the population of the country, and we're not keeping up, and that's a major problem. Listen, I think that this is an admission by the Minister for Housing that he hasn't got the technical ability to do this job, and now he's spent nearly €500,000 a year to try and get someone to do the job for him. I also think it's a tactic by the government to create a mudguard to deflect negativity that is building in terms of housing, to say, well, listen, this is not our fault. The housing czar is not doing his job, or etc. It's looking to put distance between the minister and the responsibility that the minister was actually given when he was selected as the Minister for Housing. And to be honest, my big frustration in relation to this is there's 160,000 empty houses. People are looking to draw down funds to be able to get those houses back into use. It's really cumbersome to draw down those funds. Local authorities have 4,000 empty houses across the country. It's taken 8 months to get those houses back into use, which is incredible. In the private sector, it only takes 3 weeks to get houses back into use. And also the prices are so high. But if you go across the border, just a few miles from Letterkenny, there's no VAT on building of homes, but there's VAT on building and homes in Letterkenny. We need to, for a period of time, get rid of the VAT on construction so that house prices comes down. In my own county, I know of loads of builders who are not building. They're doing nothing at the moment. Why? Because they can't make a living out of it because everything's gone too expensive.
Well,
So
they could
we
come
need
to Donegal potentially and make a living. John McAteer, I don't know what the KPIs would be for this job. Is it a mudguard? I mean, you know, in fairness, like the likes of the health minister is very insulated from local issues because it's the manager, the head of the local health authority, then another person, then her. What do you think the motivation for this was?
The reality here is that the current system is not set up to do anything other than to fail. And that is the sad reality of it. If you're going to have any movement or any positivity within this, you have to have the developers on board. You have to have the banks that we bailed out on board. And you must ask questions about what's the purpose of this land agency development or this land development agency. That's really going nowhere. They have very, very little land acquired. But like at the end of the day, the system as it is not working. The reality is that we're probably going to build less than 30,000 houses this year as compared to last year's disasters, 33,000. And yet Davy Stockbrokers, they done a major assessment there 10 days ago that shows that from now up until 2031, including 31, we need 93,000 houses per year. So all that's happening there is that people are just leaving. Prices continue to grow at an enormous rate, and rental accommodation is not available, and people just simply can't afford it, and they're just leaving the country because not only has the government failed on that, taking in a czar like that there makes no sense whatsoever because the civil service is full of these people, and they have a function in keeping the books right and all that kind of thing, but insofar as finding solutions, it has to engage with the developers.
The public is seeking less layers, not more. Last word to you on this, Pater.
Yeah, there are 20, we did a study on this, there are 20 senior managers within the Department of Housing already. There's Secretary Generals, there's Private Secretaries, Assistant Secretary Generals, there's chairs of committees within. There is an unbelievable level of really high paid bureaucrats within the housing department already, and this is the government, admitting that they can't do the job.
Yeah, and we can't even get answers as to why the housing agency is downgrading defective concrete block homes, and people have put in appeals and they've been waiting for months and years. And with all of those bureaucrats and all of those people getting paid, we can't get one simple answer as to why that is. Ein tú leader, Pater Tobin, thank you. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you very much.
Oops, I just cut him off. Emma, I won't cut you off. Of course, I didn't mean to cut Pater off.
Much,
Have a great day. Thanks so much.
Listeners.
Appreciate it. Love to all the family. John McAteer, thanks so very much as always. Love having your input. You know that anyway. Take care of yourself.
And you.
Bye-bye. And we'll be back with more. In fact, taking your legal questions with Seamus Gunn. And we'll also hear from the Health Minister and cancer campaigners from yesterday, all coming up after the news at 10.
Do you know someone who's a real-life superhero in your community? Highland Radio's Community Hero campaign is here to honour those incredible people who go above and beyond to help others. Nominate someone special today, and they could win €1,000 as a thank you for all they do. Just email their name, address, and the reason you're nominating them, and your contact details to hero@highlandradio.com. Entries close on the 5th of May 2025. Let's give your local hero the recognition they truly deserve. Visit highlandradio.com for more information.
If you're struggling with scalp and hair loss issues, Head Rush Hairdressing in Letterkenny are hosting a special event this week at HR2 in Letterkenny Shopping Centre with free consultations from hair loss expert Trina Holian. Also, scalp analysis using a 3D scalp camera, advice on wigs, toppers and extensions, and information about funding available for hair loss treatments. That's all at HR2 in Letterkenny Shopping Centre this Thursday, the 8th of May, starting at 4:30.
Spark pure barbecue joy this bank holiday with Lidl. Our claim to flame, our fresh meats, fish and poultry, any three for just €9. And don't wait for the grass to grow before getting our Parkside robot lawnmower in store this Thursday for only $199.99. Shop without compromise. Go full Lidl this bank holiday.
Celebrate your love at the award-winning Villa Rose Hotel and Spa Ballybuffet. The elegant Capri Suite hosts up to 300 guests with a private garden and romantic stone cottage for unforgettable wedding photos. Experience exceptional service that turns your dream wedding into reality. Visit villarose.ie to start planning. Attention all animal lovers. Looking for quality, affordable veterinary care? Northwest Vets is now open for small animals in Burt. They are proudly local and independently owned. With over 60 years combined experience, they'll treat your pets like family. Book now and save 10% on small animal surgeries this April at Northwest Vets, Burt's premier veterinary clinic.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Donna Marie Doherty with the news at 10 o'clock. The chairperson of the Donegal Diabetes Group says he felt positive after the meeting with Health Minister Jennifer Carroll McNeil yesterday afternoon. Paul Gillespie says that due to poor provisions of type 1 diabetes care in the county, many people with the disorder end up in hospital from complications. There have been persistent issues in filling 2 endocrinologist positions in Letterkenny University Hospital. Mr Gillespie says he feels that the Minister took on board his comments.
So she has committed to come back to us, and she didn't put a timeline on it, but she has an awful lot of questions to ask all the different previous. Why has Letterkenny never got the resources? Why has it fallen so far behind? So she has committed to come back to us. So we'll give her a few weeks now because she's new in the post, and say it is her first interim meeting, but we believe it was quite positive.
Housing Minister James Brown has been voted the worst performing minister through the first 100 days of the government. A poll for the Station of Leinster House Insiders had the Wexford TD as the minister under the most pressure. Sean Defoe reports.
This poll was conducted among Leinster House insiders, including TDs, senators, political advisers, journalists and former Oireachtas members. The Housing Minister was voted the worst performing minister since the government was formed, with 57% of respondents picking James Brown. The polling was conducted by the station before NAMA boss Brendan McDonagh ruled himself out of the running to be the CEO of the new Housing Activation Office after being the preferred option of Minister Brown. In this poll, 87% of respondents said housing is one of the 3 biggest issues coming up with their constituents, while 35% think housing will be the biggest issue to dominate the Dáil agenda before the summer recess. If the insiders believe that James Brown has had the worst performance, Justice Minister Jim O'Callaghan was voted the best performing minister with 29% of the vote, followed just after by the Health Minister Jennifer Carroll McNeil on 22%.
A 2-vehicle collision has taken place on the N14 in Manor Cunningham this morning. It happened at around 8:30. Gardaí and emergency services are currently at the scene. The Northern Irish Assembly has heard that an all-Ireland approach is needed to tackle educational barriers. MLA Padraig McDelargy was speaking in the chamber last week after tabling a motion calling for the breaking down of artificial barriers to education. These include financial barriers, application hurdles and a lack of information. MLA Delargy gave the example of Donegal students in his address.
If you're a student in Donegal and you want to study in Derry, given the great chances already at McGee and the future plans for more to come, you're more likely to face barriers than if you were to study in Galway or in Cork. That's not just wrong, it's absurd. These barriers come in many forms. A lack of joined up information on courses across Ireland, differences in fee structures and funding supports, complexities in the recognition of qualifications, and, let's be honest, decades of underinvestment and of political indifference.
Commuters in Donegal are among those with the shortest journeys. It's according to Kintu Join. The research found that the average commute in this county is 11 kilometres, taking just under 21 minutes one way. It also found the average daily cost of a commute here is €6.54. It emerged yesterday that Donegal's electoral register is among the most inaccurate in Ireland. The county was the second worst in terms of having more names on the register than people of voting age in the county. Speaking to Greg Hughes this morning, Into leader Deputy Peadar Tobin says it means the election statistics are also wrong.
You know, we hear that there's such and such a turnout, you know, in an election, 55%, maybe 60% turnout. But those turnout figures are inaccurate as well because they're based on an election register. And that's incorrect. So what happens is, you know, people move from house to house and they don't take themselves off the register in one place. while they're adding themselves on the register in another place.
Firefighters have fitted a chimney on top of the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican in what is seen as a key moment in the preparation for the conclave. The election of a new pope will be marked by white smoke appearing from it. Roman Catholic cardinals will begin the process of voting for a new pontiff next Wednesday. Taking a look now to the weather forecast, today will be a dry mix of cloud and sunny spells with highest temperatures of 12 to 14 degrees. That's all for now from the news desk. Back again with headlines at 11. The obituary notices this Friday morning, May 2nd. The death has taken place of Grace Mary McCausland, known as Ray, Woodlands, Raphoe. Her remains will repose at her late residence from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m. today and tomorrow. Funeral leaving from there on Sunday at 2:30 for 3 o'clock service of thanksgiving for her life in Ballylennon Presbyterian Church, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only please, donations in lieu if desired, to Medical Aid, Letterkenny University Hospital and Ballylennon Presbyterian Church, care of any family member or Terence McClintock Funeral Director. The death has occurred of Rose Patton, née Floyd, Trusk Road, Ballybuffet. Remains are reposing at her late residence today from 2 o'clock and tomorrow from 12 noon. Rosary both nights at 9 o'clock. Funeral leaving her residence on Sunday at 20 to 2 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church Session at 2 p.m. Interment in the adjoining churchyard. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via the parish YouTube channel. Family time on the morning of the funeral, please. The death has occurred of John Gallen, 27, Shanahy Road, Ahiarn, reposing at the family home today from 2 o'clock. Funeral from the family home on Sunday at 1:20 for Requiem Mass at 2 p.m. in St Patrick's Church, Ahiarn. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. The Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. to 10 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Bridget Bridie McCartney, née Patton, late of 191 Foreglen Road, Claudy, County Derry, reposing at her home. Family time from 10 o'clock tonight. Funeral tomorrow, leaving her late home at 10:15 for 11 a.m. Requiem Mass in St Peter and St Paul's Church, Foreglen. Interment immediately afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has occurred of PJ Wilhare, Wood Quarter, Cranford. Removal from his late residence to the Church of St John the Baptist, Carrygart this evening, arriving at 8 o'clock to repose overnight. The house is strictly private, to family only please. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 a.m, followed by private cremation at Lakelands Crematorium, Cavan. The death has taken place of Chris McClafferty, Main Street, Carrygart. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there today, going to the Church of St John the Baptist for Requiem Mass at 3 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on the Meva Parish Facebook page. The death has occurred of Anais McFadden, 159 Mount Marion, Milford. Anais's remains will repose at his late residence today from 12 noon until after the Rosary at 9. His funeral mass will take place in St Peter's Church, Milford, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, with burial afterwards in Milford Cemetery. Funeral can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family flowers only please, donations if desired to St Vincent de Paul Rathmullen Day Centre, care of Eamon Scott, Funeral Director, or any family member. The death has occurred of Ellen Keogh, Gortley, Letterkenny. Requiem Mass today at 10:30 in the Church of the Irish Martyrs, followed by cremation in Lakelands Crematorium. The funeral mass can be viewed on the Parish of Aughnishin webcam. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, care of any family member, or Bradley O'Doherty Funeral Directors, house private. The death has taken place of James Devine, 60 Carricane Road, Claudy. Funeral from his home today at 10:20 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Aughbrack at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time this morning, please. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Here's a Maybank holiday weekend offer from Mace that will melt in your mouth. Head into your local Mace and get your hands on a Cadbury Dairy Milk Caramel large bar for only €1. That's Cadbury Dairy Milk Caramel 120 gram for only €1. Happy May Bank Holiday weekend from everyone at Mace. Mace, going the extra smile. Offer available 1st to 5th of May while stocks last in participating stores.
Welcome back to the 9 Till Noon Show. Seamus Gunn's going to be joining us shortly, answering your legal questions. We're also going to be hearing from a number of women that were down protesting, I beg your pardon, were down yesterday to meet with the health ministers, people that have been very active in seeking better cancer services for all of us for many, many years. Noelle Duddy, I'll chat to Noelle. Betty Holmes is there. We also speak to Mary Devlin Orr. Who else? Rosina Toner. We'll have a chat to her. I spoke to them as they went into the meeting. They came out of the meeting feeling positive, and that comes across in the conversation I'll have thereafter with the health minister. And also, if you want to watch that as well, like everything on this show, you can watch those interviews on our Facebook page, Highland Radio Facebook page. What is our Facebook page? Highland Hub, Highland Radio News, Sport and Obituaries. We're on the YouTube channel as well, Highland Radio Ireland. Okay, I want to get to some of your comments. A caller says, we just need a common sense approach to it without people being labelled far right or far left. Ireland needs immigration and we have thousands of wonderful people coming to the country making brilliant contributions to our society. But we also have unvetted, undocumented folks who have no intention of contributing. We need to have some robust system for dealing with that. But you also have people who agree with you that we have too many people coming in here unvetted, but they also agree with you. They also disagree with you and say that actually we shouldn't be bringing anyone in here to work. We should be not giving out those visas and in fact encouraging Irish people into those jobs. So that's the varying views you have on that subject. So what you're saying is certainly the view of some, but it's not the view of all. Please ask John to explain far right. If every person who's afraid to walk Letterkenny streets or let their children out on their own because of certain groups of men hanging about, are they far right? Hi, Greg. People will not accept a demographic change at this kind of pace. The level of mass immigration will change the face of Letterkenny far too quickly to realise the devastating effects. Another caller says, we're not living in a democracy as the Irish government, they believe, is totally anti-Irish. 1,805 people in IPAS centres is surely wrong. We've over 100 in one centre in a small village in Milford. There are people of different statuses in different places, but the figure John quoted is right, 1,805, and I think about 700 of those are children. Hi, Greg. Donegal councillors have lost the immigration debate. How about an apology to the people of Donegal for labelling those that question mass immigration? Another, tomorrow isn't about anti-immigration. I have to call it what it's called, right? And it's called a peaceful protest against illegal immigration. So in case anyone thinks I'm framing it in a certain way, I'm not. I try to use their own terminology. Tomorrow isn't about anti-immigration. It's about the elephant in the room, illegal immigration. Sorry, I get where you're coming from. Sorry, you're right. Anti and legal, I mix those two up. My apologies. And those who are benefiting from it. Many Polish people who've been living here are supporting the protest tomorrow. The people are not racist, just fed up with the way this has been enforced upon communities with no prior consultation, while others make millions. And I pass fair play, Greg, for mentioning those who are making millions. Well, I have no agenda. If there's a story there, I'll report it. It's not always, I'm not here to make friends either. It doesn't matter if you're an independent, whatever, if there's important information to get out there to the public or important conversations to have, we're gonna have them, or else there's no point in doing this at all. Passports are not made of toilet paper, so they're not able to be flushed down the toilet. How can we accept that passports are being flushed down the toilet if it's not actually possible? Passports would block the system. Well, okay, if you're flying into a country and you intend to get rid of your documents so that you can claim a status, you're not going to be worried about blocking a toilet in an aeroplane, are you? You're not going to go, oh, balls, I'm going to go home now because I don't want to block this toilet. There's ways and means, and not every passport either, by the way, is the same passport that you might have. Trust me, Michael O'Leary said they're finding lots of passports in their tanks. So it is happening. He owns the aeroplanes. When free speech is curtailed, extremism grows, says the listener. Hi, Greg. The truth of the matter is that our immigration system is broken and the Donegal public can see it more clearly than Donegal councillors. well, I suppose the councillors can speak for themselves. If a councillor wants to come on, feel free to do so. I think the statement they released effectively was not counter the protest, unless I'm missing something. It was more to say that, if you are of a different race or culture and you're living here, you're welcome. I don't think it's saying that protest shouldn't happen or that there aren't issues with immigration. So anyway, but councillors, it's not for me to defend them. It's up to them to do that themselves. Greg, getting your fingerprints taken and put in a database on movement across the EU is not the same as uploading to a criminal database. No, of course not. And my understanding is they can only access criminal records of people in Europe. So if someone went to France and committed a crime and came up here, it would be flagged. But if they've come from a country outside of the EU, there might not necessarily be that info available to them. That was my reading of it a year or so ago. I always used to get 3 voting cards. One of our sons still gets 2. Another son hasn't lived in Ireland for 15 years and he gets a voting card. Nice to hear discussion on immigration without people being labelled. Morning panel, why do we need a housing czar when we have a housing minister? What does the housing minister actually do? That's right, they're too busy thinking up ideas on how to stop 100% redress, believes a listener. Another, I think that on your 18th birthday, you should automatically be registered to vote through the birth registration department. I don't think this should be an excuse to introduce digital ID. Thank you so much. Just a sample of what's coming in so far. Seamus Gunn's with me after we take a break.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 Til Noon Show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 2nd of May. You're playing on the yellow sheet for the daily prize of €600. The reference number is S10. It's game number 18. The numbers are 2, 70, 53, 24, 32, 6, 15, 71, 73, and finally 48. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Minister calls emergency TB summit. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, Minister Hayden prepares to unveil new TB eradication programme. We reveal Arrivo's earnings rise by 13.5%. Crunch meeting of mart managers over credit. We talk to farmers who are waiting over a year for their acres payments. Why are sheep numbers in the West plummeting despite record prices? Green diesel price hike. Key deadline approaches for cap-based scheme. Plus, we talk to 2 brothers encouraging farmers to take charge of their health. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
New this week in Home Store and More. All barbecues are 33% off. But better hurry, because when all our 33% off barbecues are gone, they're gone. Cook up a storm this summer. Check out our great range of gas and charcoal barbecues. Like our Mastercook Classic 505 burner gas barbecues, only $279.97. Or our adjustable grill charcoal barbecues, only $149.98. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Connect Hearing is open for free hearing tests. Our audiologist is available Monday to Friday for wax removal services at our Letterkenny clinic in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. We also offer a home visit for those who are unable to visit us. Our hearing is our social sense. Are you finding hearing more of a challenge? Call Ursula today on 07491 13296 to make an appointment. Good hearing helps us to connect to our family, friends and loved ones. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
On the show with me now is Mr. Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn, Ramelton and Letterkenny. I believe he's there. Seamus, are you there? Oh no, Seamus isn't there. Okay, I can come back to Seamus in a second. Maybe the connection has frozen. Anyway, we'll get back to Seamus in a moment. 08660 25,000, that's the WhatsApp and text number if you wish to give us a WhatsApp or text. And if you want to give us a call, it's 07491 25,000. Right, Seamus Gunn, can you hear me? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are we?
I'm doing fantastic. What about you?
Good to be with you. Good to be with you.
Right, okay, before we get to some questions from our listeners, there's it's a tragic case, but a very interesting case that's unfolding in Australia, and no doubt is going to be a documentary or a film into the future,
Yes,
I would
could well be.
imagine. Talk to me and the listeners about this case.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems to have certainly captured the imagination of all those in Australia. We're looking at, it's going to be called probably the Beef Wellington prosecution, because we have a lady before the court accused of murdering her in-laws, which are Don Patterson and Gail Patterson, as well as a sister-in-law, Heather. And Erin Patterson, she's only 50 years of age. She invited them to a dinner, and there the plot thickens, as it were, because as a result of that, 3 of her guests passed away, and the fourth, who is a pastor, a Baptist pastor, Ian Wilkinson, who was married to Gail, he survived. And interestingly, what followed after that was there was an investigation as to the food that they had consumed in the course of the meal, and it transpired that there was a mixture of for the beef Wellington, which included death cap mushrooms, and as a result of that, obviously they became violently ill, and tragically 3 of them passed away in hospital in the forthcoming days. It is opened there in Australia during the week. It has been covered sort of in the world media, and I think, as you say, it could certainly be one that will be on the screens, maybe in years to come, depending on the outcome. But it's fascinating stuff, because one of the defense lines in it is that it was a tragic accident, that this really wasn't, they accept that they were poisoned. The defendant maintains that the mushrooms were purchased in an Asian type store, food store, and that CCTV, or not CCTV, but from her phone records, I think they have linked her to going to an area where these mushrooms actually grew wild. And then there was allegedly they were then dehydrated in a food dehydrator, which she subsequently disposed of, and they can establish that. While they say, look, this was a terrible tragedy, it was a mistake, but it was certainly no intent on her part. So what the prosecution have to prove is the intent in the matter. So it's not entirely straightforward. The circumstantial evidence seems to be slightly against her, but to prove the intention, it might be somewhat more difficult.
The defence only has to, I presume,
was because she was going to announce to her in-laws that unfortunately she was suffering from cancer. She even invited the ex-husband to it as well, and he didn't attend.
No, but presumably the defence accept that these mushrooms found their way into the food, and the food was eaten, and the people subsequently died. So it's about them establishing reasonable doubt in relation to this, because the evidence might be compelling, but it is circumstantial. A lot of people have, ghost places to pick mushrooms. A lot of people might dehydrate them and add them to food. A lot of people might not ring the husband and ask how your family is in hospital. But you have to, if you're the prosecution, demonstrate that this, without reasonable doubt, I presume in Australia as well, that this was her intention to kill these people.
Yeah, intention, I think, is the key word, Greg, that you've hit on there. Yes, all of those are factors, and they are circumstantial. I think where there may be a slight difficulty in that if she had stated that it was actually a mistake, she picked these wild mushrooms, they unfortunately ended up being poisonous. She was not aware of that. I think she has put out there anyway this claim that she purchased them in a store, in a food store. So that's and I believe it's certainly put out that she can be traced to a particular area where these dead cap mushrooms did grow via her phone records. So that seems to me to be a difficulty where the circumstantial evidence will gain a bit more weight to prove the intent. Her point on the whole social aspect of it, the dinner, is that she was inviting them because unfortunately she got news about her suffering from cancer, and she was going to let them know. She didn't want any children there, her kids there, so she invited themselves as being extended family. to give them this news, and the prosecution make the case, well, she didn't have cancer at all, but that is hotly refuted by the defence. So the circumstantial evidence is pretty difficult to rebut, given that if she put a story out there that does not now tally. But the intention will have to be proved, and it'll be interesting to see if she gives evidence, which I would anticipate she'll have to, because the jury will want to hear from her. I would expect, as to how they run that and how they explain how she came into this in the first instance, how she came upon the mushrooms in the first instance, and then next, which is fascinating, is why she disposed of the food dehydrator, which seemingly within days was put into a skip or some local disposal.
Just one brief question in relation to it. Brief question. The prosecution said that motive is not something that has to be proven by the prosecution. Why is that? Because you'd imagine, motive, actions, consequence, but they say motive is not something they have to prove.
Well, it seems from that, I think that a reasonable inference from that is that they can't really prove there isn't a motive that is obvious, and from looking into the background of it, that does not seem to exist. So I can understand the prosecution putting that out there. It would add weight to the prosecution if they can put forward a proposition which could be considered motive. It certainly would add weight to it, but it does not eliminate the prospects of a conviction. But it could assist the defence in saying, well, why would she go to this elaborate, go through this elaborate plan in order to poison her in-laws? And what is the purpose? What is to be gained by it? And there doesn't seem to be any gain for her in it. But some people's minds work differently, and at the moment, though, with the tracing of the disposal of the food dehydrator, which I believe is also traceable through records as having to pay a tariff for that, and that's linked to her. That's also something to be explained. The defence makes the case she panicked. It was a situation that she never had obviously come across before, and she just got rid of it, not thinking rationally. Again, that could be plausible. Will a jury believe it? We'd have to wait and see.
Gone to questions now. If a bank judgment went on my land about 25 years ago, I since paid the debt, is that judgment gone, or how do I get it removed?
Well, the judgment is still in place. Obviously, that's what the caller is concerned about. It's still on the record, and it seems to be still on the person's title or deeds to that effect. But the key to the question is that the debt has been paid off in full. So if that is the situation, the individual is entitled to a discharge, in my opinion. And the manner in which we go about that, if it was a bank situation, they would seal a discharge, which could then be issued and lodged with the Property Registration Authority, now Táilte Éireann, and the judgment would be subsequently removed. If it was an individual matter, the holder of the judgment could also complete the appropriate discharge, and it should be registered. If it's a Registry of Deeds title, it would be registered with the Registry of Deeds, and that would therefore remove it completely. But on the face of it, I don't believe they have a lot to worry about. It is a matter that should be tidied up, and they should have a word maybe with their legal representative about that. But on the face of it, I would consider that it should be straightforward. But
a couple of related questions, both on rights of way. In one instance, I inherited a property which is landlocked but had a right of way. Does that right of way still apply to me? And a second question, in that I live in a property and my access has been blocked, even though I've used this access in the past and there was an established right of way. How complicated is this area?
It is fairly complicated, Greg, in that no two questions are the same. They have the similarity, the thread running through them in respect of access. If one's access is a right of way, is what's called an easement, and it serves a property. In the first question there, it's obviously was the route into this property. such an access and such an easement, if the property is passed on, it'll be my opinion that all easements, rights and privileges that are appurtenant to a property should pass with it. And therefore the individual who then owns the property should be entitled to the use of it. And in that case, if it's a situation where it is being denied, well, then you could be looking at what we would call a title action to establish it in the circuit court. If it's a situation where it has been blocked, that's another circumstance, and it is slightly different. But again, the whole aspect and the whole purpose of the easement is that it services a property, and in this case, obviously, the route to it. And if that is being blocked and there is no due reason for it, well, then again, it could come under the same situation as from my first question in dealing with the application via a circuit court type of title action to get an order, which we would call a declaratory order, to the effect that access and that route and that easement goes along with that property, and then seek some type of interlocutory relief, which I would suggest might be something like an injunction to restrain or restrict anybody from interfering with it at any time in the future. Now, what I would say is, and I've said this before in the past, you have to have a caveat with these matters. You know, there's a lot of expense involved. If you're going down that route that I'm describing there, first port of call would be probably to engage an engineer or architect to do a full survey of the property, check out the history of it and plot it out, and then do a report on it in order to go into court. And armed with that, then you're into the circuit court. It's not a district court matter, it's a title matter, so it has to go in the circuit court. It can and is expensive because that's just the way of the world, and so you want to have good grounds. But if it's a situation where your access is being interfered with, hindered, obstructed, I don't think there's much choice in that.
And just out of curiosity,
I think they should get good legal advice before they go down the route as to what the ingredients that are needed in order to prove it in court.
These are not criminal matters, though. The Gardaí have no role in this. These are civil matters that must be sorted out. I presume. Very much so. Yeah. And interesting when you mention that on the proofs that are needed in a civil matter. It's worth just mentioning that it's on the balance of probability. So it's not like a criminal matter where it's beyond what we would say beyond a reasonable doubt. So there are two different standards of proof that have to be attained, but they're not matters usually for the Gardaí unless there is an aspect or a threat to some public order disquiet over it, and then they may very well be involved, but not usually. And it's a case that you'd have to, as I say, get the full background, the full facts, the full history, probably a full report from an engineer, and then armed with all of that, you're talking about engaging maybe counsel to draft proceedings and heading to court to establish your rights and to get a declaratory order and possibly an injunction to prevent further interference. Yeah, it seems the odds are heavily stacked against the person seeking right-of-way access by the sounds of things. That's a very fair point, because it may be doubtful whether it would qualify. So let's say they're very limited. They're of very limited means. It could be doubtful whether they would qualify for legal aid in such a matter. Of course, that'll be means tested, but it could be difficult. And yes, they can be against the person who can't afford to take the action. But in such circumstances, maybe they cannot afford not to take it. Seamus, fascinating as always. I wish we had more time, but we'll speak to you again very soon. Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gun and Company, Ramelton and Letterkenny, and online, of course, Seamus. Yes, I hope so, Greg. Yeah, donegalsolicitor.ie or gun.ie. Just keep it simple. We should be there. Super stuff. Thank you, Seamus. We'll be back with some coverage of the Health Minister's visit to Donegal yesterday after we take a break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
We're banking on that long weekend feeling at Spar. Red hot right now, Coca-Cola regular diet and zero 2 litre from €2.50 plus deposit. O'Donnell's crisps sharing bags 125 gram, buy one get one free. And Carlsberg 300ml and Rockshore 330ml 12-pack bottles, only €12.50 each. That's amazing red value at Spar. Offers available from the 2nd to the 5th of May on participating stores while stocks last. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Get the Irish Daily Star today for your free 12-page Punchestown Festival pullout with all the top tipsters in our stable ready to get you first past the post all week. The Irish Daily Star. #1 for racing, #1 for you.
Looking for a technology partner to help you reach your business goals? With cybersecurity solutions from Vodafone, your business can hack off the hackers. And with our collaboration tools like Microsoft 365, your business can bring the team together, wherever they are. Keeping your business secure and productive. Make technology work for you with solutions and support from Vodafone. Search Your Business Can today.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €100 million. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Ireland's Best Jazz Festival returns this May Bank Holiday weekend. City of Derry Jazz and Big Band Festival from the 1st to the 5th of May. Artists from across the world will perform in over 60 venues across the city. Book your stay today. For full programme and listings, visit www.cityofderryjazzfestival.com.
Why leave the magic moments and great scenes you've captured sitting on your phone when you can have them printed at McGee's Chemist? Using McGee's website or one of their in-store kiosks, you just upload your photos, select the ones you want and have them printed instantly within an hour or use the 24-hour service. 35mm and film from disposable cameras also printed, and old photos can be digitally restored. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist, Letterkenny.
So there are a number of amazing campaigners in this country. In terms of health service, cancer services, there are four real strong pillars and others, but four I spoke to. They are Betty Holmes, who's been at this for God knows how long, trying to improve the facilities at Letterkenny University Hospital. Mary Devlin Orr, Rosina, of course, who we've been speaking to lately, Rosina Toner. And I was down yesterday to chat to the ladies and began my conversation with Noelle Duddy. Okay, I'm here with a group of people who will be meeting the Minister very shortly to press their concerns as it relates to cancer services. Noelle Duddy, I mean, how many, I'm not looking for a specific figure, but how many health ministers is this now, and yet many of the problems remain?
Honest to God, couldn't tell you. 5, 6, 7, I don't know. It's right back to Mary Harney's time anyway. So yes, this is 20 years now. April actually, when we formed Donegal Action for Cancer Care Stroke Cooperative for Cancer Care Northwest, and really it's not good enough, and we've got Rosina and Mary joining now with their demonstrations outside the hospital 20 years later, asking, it's the same story that we're hearing, so it is, and what we want to say to the Minister is that Donegal is geographically isolated from the rest of the county, and I suppose what really infuriating people is that the surgical hub has been decided to be placed in Sligo. Why would Donegal patients have to continue to travel? It makes more sense that Letterkenny University Hospital treats more inpatients. We have a cross-border connection with Alton Galvin with regards to radiotherapy. It would make sense for us to build up our surgical services so that we're in a position that we can help cross-border development as well. But most importantly, we need the surgical hub because it will help us to retain and attract hospital staff that we desperately need. If the surgical hub goes to Sligo, it means that there's going to be a further dilution of the services possibly in Letterkenny, and more difficult to attract those staff that we so desperately need here.
And there seems to be a concern that the Dublin solution to a Donegal problem is Sligo.
Yes,
or Galway, I should say.
Galway and Sligo, it would seem now, and again and again, it's Donegal patients having to travel. It's 300 kilometres for me to travel to Galway. It's 110 miles for me to go to Sligo. That's a lot for people, and I consider myself to be pretty healthy for anybody that's got any mobility issues, anybody that's coming from farming backgrounds, anybody that has children, anybody that has got all those other financial difficulties. Travelling there is difficult. We understand that we do have to travel for certain treatments. What we're asking for here is that we have the services to deliver prostate, breast, lung, bowel cancer services, and we will absolutely travel where we have to go. If you've got a leukemia, or if you've got a gynae difficulty, if you've got pancreatic cancer, of course you have to go to Dublin. There's no issue. This isn't about parish pump politics, it's about equity.
Okay. I'll come back to you. I'm going to step around this side and come to Betty Holmes. Betty Holmes, Mary, don't go anywhere. You're fine there for a moment. But Betty Holmes, I've done the interviews with the likes of Joe McHugh when he was in charge. Second breast surgeon has been confirmed, yet here we are. Joe McHugh's out of politics, and there's no second breast surgeon. That position hasn't been formally sort of ratified. So it's not just about seeking promises, it's about fulfilling promises made as well.
Most definitely. I mean, the great announcement about the second breast surgeon, we thought that was excellent because we'd worked so hard on it. To find out that it had never been signed off on, it didn't happen. The second breast surgeon has to happen because at the minute, I'm doing this from memory, I think the breast services at Letterkenny Hospital are doing something like 3,500 patients a year. I think there was 400 last month alone, Greg, and it's not acceptable that announcements come out and that they're not fulfilled. So we will be bringing that up with the Minister today as well. But again, we have to look at the whole cancer services here. And as I have said many times, just because you're a cancer patient, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, doesn't mean that you don't need other health services within the hospital. And it's 17 years since I said that, as far as I was concerned, that Letterkenny was going to become the new St. Joseph's, with key services been stripped from it. I think the fact that the 8 centres of excellence, the breast check units, the prostate rapid access, and now insult to injury, 7 surgical hubs, 6 of them the Galway-Dublin line. I mean, why is there such discrimination for Donegal patients, for their sick? Why are key services been stripped out of Letterkenny Hospital? Today we get our foot in the door with the Minister. I have to make sure that she knows all the issues. And again, we need to see implementation of the Model 3 strategy. There's so many things, and recruitment of consultants. And again,
but a lot of all of these are connected too. But Sean Murphy is here. It's not necessarily his responsibility. We've got the Minister for Health here. She might say, well, I'll raise this with other people. If we had the head of Cialta here, they might say it's not our responsibility. Who are we speaking to? Who makes these decisions? Who decided that Sligo was this location, and what is the business case for that?
Yeah, well, I have always said that there's political politics, there's managerial politics, and there's medical politics, and I'm not sure which is the worst. And again, if you go back a few years, Greg, you'll remember when the breast appointments had to be made by the surgeon in Galway for the Donegal patients. There's a mix here, but unless we're actually working with Letterkenny Hospital, with Cialta, with all our Donegal politicians, we have to go to Dublin. We have to meet with the National Cancer Control Programme, and they're all liable and they're all responsible.
Let me ask you, what's your view of opposition politicians not coming here today? Pat the Cope Gallagher, who's a government TD, chose not to come. Charles Ward of the 100% Redress, he didn't want to come, and Sinn Féin didn't want to be complicit in a photo op. We've got campaigners here. What's your view of opposition politicians not using this opportunity to stand with you guys and to press the case?
Well, when I heard it on your programme, Greg, initially I thought, well, fair play to them. And then I thought about it. I thought, when the Minister came into post, I started to write to her the next day, asking her to come and visit Letterkenny. I've been lobbying for this meeting since the 9th of April. And when I heard today, even though we were only getting a 15-minute slot, this was so important and so valuable for Donegal sick people and for Letterkenny University Hospital that I thought, you know what, you all should have had your butts up here and supported us, the campaigners, the people in the hospital, the staff in the hospital. So yeah, I'm a little bit peeved because here we are, the campaigners, standing on our own, Greg, and I just thought I CC them on every single email that's sent, and at least they could have stood with us today.
Mary, Devlin, or what's the message that you'll want to, and I know you're all on the same page, what's the message that you would like to impress on the Minister today?
Donegal has it all. We've got the consultants, we've got the doctors, we've got the skills. I know because I lost 2 members of my family to cancer. My father was in treatment for 10 years. He had lymphatic leukemia. He also had skin cancer. My father got his treatment in Letterkenny Hospital. Excellent treatment. They kept him alive for 10 years, and the quality of his life for 7 or 8 of those years was good. The last couple of years were difficult. But with their links with Europe and quality, they brought forward some trials, and my father took part in 2 of them, and they were excellent, and they kept him going. And they're very forward thinking in Letterkenny, and I can't see why not. Like, it's a great place to live. If we could bring the infrastructure here, if we had the extra beds, if we had the standalone cancer unit, the doctors would come. We already have them. The hematology oncology people we have now are training and will train. All disciplines in that hospital, as Betty said, you don't just have one thing wrong with you. My father's skin cancer, he had to travel to Sligo. He was from Annagray. My father got up at 6 o'clock in the morning in Annagray. He got to my house at 7:15. He was exhausted then, a man of 80. Then we had to travel, first of all, to Sligo, check the skin cancer. That was another 2 hours. You'd have to stop along the road, you know. Then when you needed the plastics for the skin cancer when it got too bad, you had to go to Galway. That was an impossible journey for my father, but he made it. And he made it for us because we loved him so much, and he done it for us. In the end, I firmly believe he would have given up. And I know people in Donegal, the thought of the journey and the sickness, and they just don't go.
I think too it's worth clarifying again that we're standing here just up from that hospital, and what yous are doing is in support of the staff down there. It's in support of the hard-working nurses, consultants and the patients. We're all on the same side of this. It's about having a good place to get better, a good place to get treatment, and a good place to work.
Exactly. And I know at the moment they're to the pin of their collar, all of the staff in there, because you see it. I have family members here of staff. They're exhausted, but they're focused. And if we just get behind them, our group is growing. On Saturday we had another meeting down at the gate, and I felt proud to say that I was from Donegal, and the lovely people that came and told their stories, you know, about how they've been helped and what they need. And we have it all here for doctors and for just bring it on, bring it to Letterkenny. Sligo is too far for older people. If you come from the periphery, anywhere from the Inishowen Peninsula down to the Rosses, that's another hour and a half before you even get to Letterkenny. Sometimes people in Dublin, we think we travel from Donegal town. Donegal town is nearly 2.5 hours from where my father lived. You know, and no, it's just not good enough anymore. We have to stand behind the patients and staff now because it's critical at this stage.
Mary, thank you so very much. I just want one final word with you, Noelle. We're standing here with the Minister for Health in there, and there's 4 amazing ladies here, yourself. We've got Betty Holmes, we've got Rosina, we've got Mary, and there's nobody else. I find that a little bit heartbreaking. I know there's been no public call for people to come out, but there was an awareness of this meeting, and it actually just is really difficult for me to comprehend that you 4 warriors, if you don't want me calling you that, are standing here really on your own.
It feels sometimes that we are warriors, and we're very tired warriors, some of us, and we are standing on our own. We did have a meeting last week in Letterkenny University Hospital where the TDs, the Donegal TDs and other public representatives were present, and I have to say that during that meeting they did all agree that they were supporting us with regards to the where we were coming from, and that in that meeting that was also the management of Letterkenny, we were all speaking with the one voice. It would be nice to have other people here to support us, because this is something that's not going to go away. Unfortunately, 20 years have passed and we are still getting basically the crumbs of treatment. The whole point of the whole cancer strategy was to integrate services so that people would get things close to home. What we're asking for is just the service, the 4 common cancers, that we get those services to us. And again, we have always campaigned as well for a cancer centre in the northwest region of this island. And we need to have that cross-border development, so we do. That is the way. That will take time. But we have to work in parallel with that so that people don't have to travel, and we have the critical mass of people so that we can provide all of those common services without having to travel.
Well, we're here if it's any comfort.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Rosina Toner's going to come up and join us now. Rosina, I think at this stage you've met a lot of different stages of the HSE machine, and we heard reference from the ladies there to your recent meeting with hospital management here. Now you're getting to meet the person at the very top, and in fairness to the Minister, whether it was initially on the schedule or not, it is now on the schedule. Your message to her?
Well, it probably is very similar to the other 3 girls. We need a fund. We need funds. We need to upgrade the hospital. We are no longer tolerating this travelling to Galway. It's absolutely ridiculous that it's even a thing. So yeah, so hopefully if we can just get that across, that the hospital needs funding, we need to upgrade the services, and I hope that she sees herself when she is travelling towards Sligo, like how far it actually is, and when she gets to Sligo she's only halfway there. Because maybe when you travel the journey yourself you might understand how long it is, because looking on a map they're clearly not understanding the journey, and take into account if you're not feeling well, it just makes the journey all the harder. So yeah, so we're going to have to just see. I've got my petition from the protests, so there's over 1,000 names on here, so hopefully.
I think there's one thing listening, and I suppose there's another thing hearing, and what you need from the Minister today is to listen and hear what you're saying, and you know, give a commitment as to when she might come back, say for an example, with an update or a reason as to why Sligo has been chosen for a surgery. What's the criteria? Who makes the call? I think you deserve some basic answers. In a democracy, that shouldn't be too much to ask.
Well, I think it wouldn't, but as Betty and Noel have just stated, they're on this battle for 20 odd years. So clearly nobody before her has listened. So do we hope that she's different? Yeah, we're going to just have to hope that she's different, and that she is going to listen, and she will hear, and she will follow it up, and she will come back to us. And it's all we can hope for, really. It is all we can hope for. Betty's map, I think, speaks loud and clear how bad the situation actually is. So sometimes a wee visual just might give her a wee nudge in the right direction too.
Do you sometimes struggle to hear? It could just be earwax, and it's easily treated. Hidden Hearing right now are offering free earwax removal for everyone over 60, carried out by our qualified earwax technicians. Call 1-800-370-000 or go to hiddenhearing.ie. Hidden Hearing, your hearing is our expertise. T's and C's apply.
It's your chance to CFC save big with CFC Interiors Campsie Derry in our massive £1.5 million stock clearance. We have slashed prices across all departments with up to 75% off across our 3 CFC stores. Our massive £1.5 million stock clearance is now on. Visit CFC Campsie Derry before it all goes.
Do you know what really drives business success? Your people. At Skillnet Ireland, we know that having a skilled and talented team makes all the difference. Our upskilling programs and 70 Skillnet business networks help businesses thrive by developing your greatest asset, your people. Now that's real talent. Discover how Skillnet Ireland can support your business today. Visit skillnetireland.ie. Skillnet Ireland is a business support agency of the Government of Ireland.
FBD doesn't stand for Friendly Business Ducks or Freelance Beatbox Department. FBD stands for support. We support businesses and communities across Ireland. Visit your local branch to talk to your FBD insurance team and see how we can support your business. FBD Insurance. Support. It's what we do.
Okay, so we did hear from the 4 ladies there, as I've mentioned. We're going to hear now from Minister for Health, Jennifer Carroll McNeil. And also you'll hear the gentleman's voice being Dermot Monaghan, who's Integrated Healthcare Area Manager for Donegal. Minister, I suppose it's always very important to talk about the positives as much as anything else. And we're standing here in the shadow almost of a fantastic new development, which is going up at a great pace.
Yes, and it's wonderful to see it going up. I believe it'll be finished next year, but it'll make a huge difference to capacity. This, of course, is a community nursing unit, community nursing home, and I recognise that, you know, Donegal has an elderly population and an ageing population as well as an expanding population, and they're going to have different needs over time. And of course there are people who are in Letterkenny Hospital who have been there for far too long, for them and for the hospital, but for them, and they need to be in a more suitable place. They don't necessarily need to be in an acute hospital. So this will enable much bigger capacity both within Letterkenny Hospital and a more suitable place for them to be. But right behind me here in Errigal Hub, I think that's one of the really exciting things that gets to keep people, particularly with respiratory illnesses, at home, but being supervised and monitored by nursing staff, by wearable technology, and you can track when their condition is being exacerbated in different ways, and you can get intervention at a much earlier stage. So I was speaking to patients today, for example, that have been patients of this hub for 2 and 3 years, from, you know, that were the original, you know, motivation behind establishing it, and who have lived not just better lives but different lives because it has been more at home, fewer hospital admissions, fewer attendances at the emergency department. And for Donegal particularly, because I particularly recognise the geography, we need to do everything we can to keep people at home, in the community, away from acute centres. I met a brilliant cardiology team in there who are only raring to get going even further to expand this community virtual system to cardiology as well as respiratory. And I have seen myself the advances that can be made in oncology and other places. For example, Vincent's Hospital, who have a virtual ward, are trying to expand in that way. So there's lots of things going on, but there's quite a lot more to do as well.
Yeah, with some great pilot projects which they're hoping to expand into the future. I'm sure it's been mentioned to you before, the surgical hub being located in Sligo. You talked about Donegal being on the periphery. A lot of people up here failing to make sense of that because the reasoning has never been explained.
Well, so there is no decision in relation to that. What the Programme for Government says is that we will look at the viability of a surgical hub in the northwest. So obviously there are a number of surgical hubs that have been committed to, one delivered in South Dublin, one in Cork, Galway, you know, one delivered
so is Donegal
in
still in the running in relation to that then?
Well, there's no case that has been received beyond. The HSE is conducting feasibility studies. What they will be looking at, of course, is I imagine population distribution, among many other things, but no decision has been made by government in relation to that. I think quite apart though from a surgical hub of any kind is to recognise that there needs to be increased surgical activity, and that is part of how we retain consultants in Letterkenny Hospital, because I recognise there are a lot of people who are coming with specialist skill who are doing quite a lot of generalist work. So put aside any surgical hub questions, surgical capacity and surgical specialism needs to increase in Donegal.
So we have 3 surgeons at the moment. What do you think we need?
That's a matter of the operational. Let me ask Dermot here directly.
We have 3 permanent consultants, plus we have locum consultants. So what we're looking to do at the moment is to increase that by 2 general surgeons, 1 gastro surgeon and 1 breast surgeon. So that'll be an increase of 4 in total, which was signed off by our REO Tony Canavan yesterday for permanent posts.
Talking of permanent posts, your former colleague Joe McHugh confirmed the appointment of a second breast surgeon here. That never happened. Do things like that worry? Do we have we're fully funded, and
what we're doing now is there's an interim process where we're taking in locum to cover that.
I'm talking about a permanent.
Yeah, but what happens then is we have to make a submission to the Consultants Appointments Commission. That has been signed off by myself and Tony Canavan yesterday. That breast surgeon post.
That's good news.
Yeah, so there is quite a lot to do, as I said, but there's no question about the support for increased pay nurses, doctors, consultants. Where we more broadly as Minister, I'm trying to secure the long-term funding of the health system, trying to make the case for multi-annual funding so that everybody here can have predictability around their funding. We don't have a barrier on the pay side, and we continue to recruit, notwithstanding anything that you may have heard. There are so many more people, not just in Letterkenny Hospital, but in the health system more broadly over the last number of years. And where we need to make savings is on the non-pay side and be really efficient in how we're doing everything. But you can see here the expansion that has been here over the last number of years, the posts that were signed off yesterday, which I think is important, and we need to continue to develop that.
And in terms of funding, you know, and this is coming from the surgeons and consultants, not disruptive media like me, not that I am, but you know what I mean, about the sort of the funding per patient in Letterkenny versus Sligo, for an example. That's a figure that's often touted. Do you recognise that there needs to be more funding for Letterkenny University Hospital?
Well, the funding for Letterkenny University Hospital has increased by nearly 60% over the last 5 years. I'm not sure of another hospital that has had such a proportionate increase. So, I mean, I'll go back and check that, but it is an extraordinary increase in funding,
but of course,
and in terms of
I get you,
not just funding, but of course people as well. But you're not hearing me saying, coming to Letterkenny, saying that everything is perfect. It is not. I mean, you know what I mean. There needs to be the community nursing unit here to get longer stay patients out. We need to try and keep people away from the emergency department who don't need it, who could get different forms of care. We want people to be treated as much as possible in their own homes, their own communities, and we want to develop capacity here in the hospital, technical and surgical and other capacity, so that we overcome some of the retention challenges that Letterkenny Hospital has had. And I recognise that, but it's also true to say that the funding has increased very, very substantially here, and that there's more to do.
Okay, and just two final points. Obviously then people would sort of say, you know, are we seeing a return then on that investment? And in terms of how hospitals run it generally, you know, there's a sense that it's a bit Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We know where the choke points, the blockage points are. As a Minister for Health, your predecessor had concerns in that regard. He said, look, I need to be met halfway in sort of how people work, when they work, and that type of thing. Is that a concern you share as Minister for Health?
I think since I took over as Minister for Health, or since I was appointed as Minister for Health at the end of January, I think you've seen a very clear focus by me on weekend working, on making sure that we don't have a trolley problem in the same way. Now, it's interesting to note that our trolley, the number of people waiting on trolleys, which is a really important metric for people. It's not the only metric of success of a hospital, of course, but it's what people feel and it's what their families feel when they turn up needing care. And the numbers have fallen nationally very considerably. I mean, April this year is very considerably down on April last year. I think in the order of 25%. But the numbers the weekends where we particularly have a difficulty, we saw a 70% fall from St. Bridget's Day to St. Patrick's Day, and we saw another fall to from St. Bridget's Day over the Easter weekend. But Letterkenny, there was 9 hospitals. Of the 20 hospitals over the Easter weekend, 20 were in green, 9 were in red. And there were different local reasons. Letterkenny was one of those that was in red. And if you're one of those patients or their families, that's not okay. So we have to make sure that 60% of consultants have signed up to a consultant contract which pays them to be rostered on Saturday. Not on call, it pays them, and there's additional funding in that contract to be rostered on Saturdays. It is essential that that's implemented. I know from the data that I have, the data analysis that has been conducted already since I became Minister, that only 10% of consultants are being rostered routinely on Saturdays, and even less on Sundays. That has a big impact on what your experience is in the hospital depending on when you turn up. So it is essential that that happens. What's also essential is that we see every CT machine and every MRI machine being used to their absolute max capacity, because diagnostic delays make a big difference on emergency departments but patient experience more broadly. So that is the next challenge that myself and Bernard Gloucester, the CEO of the HSE, are looking through and trying to identify where it's going well, where it's not going as well as it should be going, what are the different reasons for that, and how do we divert resources to make sure that it is.
And very finally, we spoke to representatives from cancer campaigners effectively, and those in relation to diabetes services. They described very positive meeting with you, that you heard their concerns and that they that you were listening and not, you know, you heard what they were saying, not just listening, so to speak. How are you going to try and progress their concerns now going forward?
Well, look, the first and most important thing is that, you know, I, like you, like everybody else here, is just a person with everybody understands cancer. I mean, many people, including me, understand endocrinology, and you understand the human impact of what people are going through. I think then you have to move to the practicalities of what are you going to get done about these different things. And it's reassuring to me to hear that the issues they raised in relation to an extra haematologist, the progression of an endocrinologist, are being addressed locally here by the hospital manager and by the HSE representatives. Of course, it's not me as Minister that signs off an additional post. It is through the HSE system, and those applications have to be made in a timely way within the HSE. It would be terrible to think that one region was falling behind another because of administrative processes, and I'm sure that that will never be the case here at Letterkenny. But we must make sure that everything is done so that funding is released on time, so that posts are made permanent, and certainly I see evidence in Letterkenny of that happening more and more, and that's fantastic.
And can any of that be timelined?
We're waiting on Professor Michael Sugrew's report. That's one that will look at the medical staffing for the hospital as part of the Model 3 national project, which is really about keeping Model 3s alive and making sure that they deliver here. So that will probably be with me in about 4 to 6 weeks' time, and then that will go through the normal processes up the line. We also have a development control plan being tested at the present moment. We've brought in a health planner to take a look at that there. That includes the ambulatory care, it includes the new 72-bed unit for the hospital, the ED, more secure, ring-fenced surgical beds, but more importantly, an ambulatory centre where we can deliver cancer care and also additional surgery services there as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you have it. That was the Health Minister, Jennifer Carroll McNeil, and also you heard there from Dermot Monaghan, Integrated Healthcare Area Manager in Donegal. That was our first visit to the county. We shall see now, and we heard some timeline commitments from Dermot there, some interesting commentary as it relates to stuff being signed the day before yesterday, as it would be now, in terms of the second breast surgeon in Letterkenny University Hospital. That's all on the record. So what we do now is we wait and we see. But there's no doubt the ladies down there, Paul himself as well too, will be keeping the pressure on. We're heading towards news a little bit late.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And coming into studio shortly too will be Michael and Fanula for That's Entertainment. But first, let's get a news update at 5 minutes past 11 and say good morning once again to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A two-vehicle collision has taken place on the N14 in Manor Cunningham this morning. It's understood to have happened at around 8:30. Gardaí and emergency services remain at the scene at this time. The chairperson of the Donegal Diabetes Group said he felt he had a positive meeting with the Health Minister yesterday afternoon. Paul Gillespie says that due to the poor provisions of type 1 diabetes care in the county, many people with the disorder end up in hospital from complications. There has been persistent issues in filling the 2 endocrinologist positions in LUH. Meanwhile, Cancer Services campaigner Rosina Toner Doherty says she hopes the Minister's journey to Sligo from Letterkenny, which is halfway to Galway where many cancer patients need to travel for treatment, will offer her some perspective. Milford is one of 3 locations in Ireland that will undergo a hosepipe ban from midnight on Tuesday. Customers from Milford, Kerrykeela and Ramelton on the Milford Regional Public Water Supply will be affected by the conservation order for 6 weeks. Anthony Skeffington, Ishka Erin's Northwest Regional Water Operations Senior Manager, says reduced rainfall levels since last September and the recent spell of dry weather are factors in the decision. Commuters in Donegal are among those with the shortest journeys, according to Kinto Join. The research found that the average commute in this county is 11 kilometres, taking just under 21 minutes one way. It also found the average daily cost of a commute is €6.54. The Irish Data Protection Commission has fined TikTok €530 million for breaking EU data rules. An investigation found the platform is unlawfully sent user data from the European Economic Area to China and failed to properly inform users about it. TikTok now has 6 months to fix these issues or risk having its data transfers to China suspended. TikTok says it will challenge the decision. And finally, the Northern Ireland Assembly has heard that an all-Ireland approach is needed to tackle educational barriers. MLA Padraig Delargy was speaking in the Chamber this week after tabling a motion calling for the breaking down of artificial barriers to education. These include financial barriers, application hurdles and a lack of information. Delargy gave the example of Donegal students in his address. That's all for now from the news desk. Back again at 12 noon.
Thanks very much, Donna Marie. And we're going to take a break. And I'm delighted to say I've delayed Michael and Fanula because often it is they that keep me waiting. But I'm keeping them waiting today and it feels good. It feels empowering. We'll have Michael and Fanula with us in about 3 minutes.
Easy Living Furniture annual roadshow sale has been extended but must end this bank holiday Monday. Absolutely everything has been reduced across all departments, including sofas, dining, bedroom mattresses, and even our new garden furniture collection. Plus, we're offering interest-free finance, making it even easier to shop for the home of your dreams, and free delivery on all garden furniture orders. It's the last weekend to save at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry.
Spring is here, and so are the new arrivals at Green Shoes. Shop in store or online from best-selling brands like Doc Martens, Birkenstock and Wonders. Also Riker, Echo, Bugatti and many more. Shop LK and One for All gift cards accepted in store. Visit Green Shoes and discover the perfect footwear to complement your style. Green Shoes at Market Square, Letterkenny Shopping Centre, Fulcara, and online at greenshoes.com.
Welcome to Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms in Donegal Town. Discover affordable luxury with their bespoke fitted furniture solutions. With almost 30 years of serving Ireland and the Northwest, we're your trusted experts. Visit us Monday to Friday 9am until 5pm and on Saturdays from 9am until 3:30pm. Book your free consultation today on 074 9725 or visit cherrymore.ie. Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, where affordability and luxury combine.
Make bank holiday get-togethers extra special this week at Super Value with Super Queen breakfast products 3 for €5.50. Signature taste cheeses and charcuterie 3 for €10. Fresh barbecue meats also 3 for €10. Scan your card or app and get 18 can packs such as 7-Up now €8. Make the bank holiday extra special this week at Super Value. DRS applies.
Jenny loves spring. Sun on her face and a crisp cold specially selected kombucha from Aldi in her hand. It's picnic time. Uh-oh, wasps. Usually she'd freak out, but all the specially selected olives, relish and Gortnamona Irish goat's cheese have her feeling so at one with nature. She's thinking maybe wasps are just misunderstood. Now nothing can stop her enjoying picnic season. Not even that. Good food, good mood from Aldi.
Okay, a little bit later than scheduled at 11:10. We welcome Michael Leddy into studio. Hi, Michael.
Hello, Greg Hughes.
Writer and blogger, and Fionnuala Rabbit.
Hi, how are
welcome
you?
Into you weren't here. You weren't here last week, and you've actually.
I know, I've been
a bit of a letdown because you went.
I know.
No, but she went around the world.
She did,
and then you came back, and then you didn't
I
come
took
back
off again.
Yeah,
I've just been kind of busy. I know I've been all over the place.
Yeah.
It's crazy with work.
Funny, you get away with it, others might not.
Yes, I've been weird working. That, isn't it? I've been working.
But that's not this is part
It
of your
takes
job.
a lot to. It takes. I know, but sometimes I have to prioritize my real job over my enjoyable job.
Listen, I'm going to step in
Plus,
here.
I'm going to
step, Greg.
that doesn't get paid for this
I'm
particular.
gonna step-
Caroline, could you just get a company so I can see who owns this radio station again?
I'm going to step in here, Greg. I'm going to defend
confused.
Fionnuala. I came in there about 20 minutes ago and she was really hard at work at her desk. Now, it looked like some kind of farm game.
It is my farm. I have.
Yeah,
I have to do my
we haven't
farm.
even had the call from Maureen or Tim or Jerry yet, or Mum. Like that's inevitable.
Yeah, that they always
It's the
call
only
me.
hour of the week they call her.
That is the
They
only
don't
hour.
care
This
about
is the
it.
only hour of the week.
They don't
But
care
no,
She's doing
about
nothing
anything.
we were
important.
very busy. I was very busy sorting out the last final bits of our new license, which was very exciting.
That's right. You rolled down, got that all
Yeah,
signed,
so we got
sealed
all
and
that
delivered.
signed and sealed and delivered. So that's great. So
And that's not a fait accompli either. There's a lot of hoops and boxes.
Oh
to
my
jump
God!
through
They
and-
call this time round. We were on what they call a fast track. It started last
Ironically.
August. So I'm not sure of a full
She's so
understanding of the word.
confident to talk about it now. The ink is dried.
I know they can't take it back off me.
process. Yeah.
The process is long, but hopefully the people in Donegal are happy to know that Highland
stuck with
Radio
us
will
for-
be
I mean,
here
we're here
for
for-
another 10 years.
Yeah,
so
exactly, okay.
we will be here
Like when
until
the
imagine being 2035. I mean, that's like Star Trek. You know the way when Star Trek
yeah.
used to start, and it's the
would you
year,
stop?
whatever.
I know.
It's like heading into those kind of like words.
But I thought that,
years.
and I'm saying this as a consumer, right? Because I often find I think more of a media consumer than someone who works in it. But I thought when we signed the last one 10 years ago, and I was here at that time too, that the landscape would change to such an extent that radio as we knew it then 10 years ago would be now. Radio's actually maintained and even grown its space in audience terms, right? Now, obviously, there's innovations. People can watch the show now.
Yeah.
There's podcast availability, all that kind of stuff. Our website, huge investment in that. And so you can consume stuff in a different way. But the raw number is, the key issue is listeners. And I just thought Spotify this, AI that. I just thought, 10 years on, radio, and I wouldn't be so bold as to presume that this time, because fundamentally people like to listen to real people in their area chatting about stuff that's important
in
to them.
particular, and we have like some crazy figures in comparison to a lot of other countries. Irish people just seem to particularly have a a love of. You know, I think it's particularly for the likes of stations like ourselves. They want to know the local. And I think, you know, people talk about young people not being involved in, you know, not being interested in radio. But they do come round to it because, you know, they want to hear the match. They want to hear stuff on your show, which is to do with their lives, you know, whether or not the school is going to be open in their area, whether or not they're going to be able to buy a house in their area, you know, all the different things. So people do all eventually come back to radio.
Well, the death of radio in Britain has been the networking of it, whereby you get shared programming in different areas, and we're sort of starting to see little bits of that here, and that will be where we'll start to see a retreat, I think. Now, obviously, we're independent, and long may that might, don't get me wrong, but in Britain, there was a lot of amalgamations of stations and local stations. You see that in a lot of countries,
same in Australia, same in America, same in
Big in America, yeah.
So I think
syndicated shows go across.
Exactly, and I think that's the difference here. We've sort of resisted that to a great extent.
I think we have, but I think also, you know, obviously, I'm hobnobbing with some of these people that are buying up these other stations across, you know, and are that work in the big conglomerates that have come here, you know, the international communications companies that have come here. But even they realise that they can't just homogenise it all across the way.
So they can own two stations, but they have to maintain their...
Yeah, you might be able to do a couple of shows here at night or a couple of bits here, but the main basis of it really has to be the local, because that is what people are looking for. It's local voices talking about local issues that know the landscape. That, you know, like when you're talking about something that's going on out in Guido, you've been to Guido, you know you know the road it's happening on, you've driven it, you've walked it, you've whatever, you know. And
don't I think tell me I'm going to have to start mentioning cash calls every 3 seconds anytime soon.
Yeah, who has that kind of money?
Right.
If power comes from millions and millions,
that's
I'd be
what
like,
I'm saying.
Maybe.
No, but you are right, because it's community broadcasting from the community. And I was chatting to, and I'm just going to escape, his name escapes me right now, and this is the gentleman, Caroline, the gentleman that succeeded Eileen Magner. I know his name, I just can't. Shane, it is Shane. I was chatting to Shane yesterday, but Shane's a Donegal man, lives in South Donegal from West Donegal, and you can see that and as I say, this is no reflection on Eileen, but you can see that on the stuff he does for RTE. It's you know, he's from here. Right? Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, no, that's exactly.
And he's doing great, and I'm delighted to see he's doing so well.
From the community, talking about the community, exactly, it makes a big difference.
And it's just really authentic. We'll get on to some stuff now, and well done, by the way, on signing the new licensing contract. It's part of the system. The Accountant 2. Now, The Accountant 1 is one of my favourite films.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people never really talked about it. I always thought it was up there with you, John Wicks and everything.
Yes.
Like that. Ben Affleck's brilliant in it. I loved everything about it. It's one of the films I've watched a couple of times, and I generally avoid doing so. But I don't think it was a massive commercial success at the time, which made me surprised that now we've got Accountant 2.
It was a sleeper hit. It became much more of a streaming hit than it ever was when it was released. And that's what led to the second one.
I think it came out around the time that he was dating. Was it his first venture out with J-Lo, and he had the big back tattoo, and there was a lot of kind of like rumory stuff going.
So
you know,
he
the way
maybe was
he
the weak
was
link in it?
he was in a kind of a negative
Maybe.
space,
I think
and I
you're
think
right,
that was around that
I think
time.
you're spot on there.
Because I saw it as well, like you, and I was like, because sometimes, like, Ben Affleck has been in some amazing things. I mean, have you seen
really
Argo? Like, that was amazing, and I think he produced it or whatever. He's actually quite good in Air. I saw that there lately as well.
But he's really good in The Accountant.
Oh my God, he's
really
so good in it.
Yeah.
Oh, he is. He's very.
I only watched it a couple of years ago because of your recommendation in the past, and I loved it. It's an excellent film, and he is excellent. And I'm a fan of his work anyway, as a performer.
Yeah.
And he really seems to suit this part.
What's the thing that John Krasinski's in? You know,
Jack Ryan.
He would have been an excellent Jack Ryan. And I know he did.
Thank God you sorted that one out quickly. I thought that was going to be 10 minutes.
No. I know. No, I look at it. Imagine I could remember Jack.
I know.
John Krasinski,
but not Jack Ryan.
Not Jack Ryan. I swear to God.
How does your mind work?
Oh, it's women of a certain age. Don't mock it.
Oh, right.
Jack
Ryan. He would have been. Yeah,
but he would have been brilliant. I think he might have played it in one of the movies one time, and it kind of it got a bit panned. But he's actually brilliant in this.
Yeah.
If you like The Accountant 1, you're going to love this one as well. It's very similar kind of thing. It's very, the brother shows up in it at a later point. it's the story
That's
is
John
very
Bernthal,
kind of
yeah,
you know
fantastic actor
basic
as well.
as in there's a bit of a mystery going on. They're not really sure what happened. It starts off with a certain character passing away, and we leave it at that. And then it's all about the looking for answers, which obviously he doesn't really.
They did that in The Equalizer. I presume we're in the same.
You don't really
ballpark,
go and talk about it, but actually it's very well done. There's a similar cast in it, similar way through.
But no Anna Kendrick this time, unfortunately, because I fancy her.
Oh,
Anna
yeah,
Kendrick's not in it.
But she's in everything else, so you can just watch it.
Yeah.
No, but actually there's a really good female character, new female character in it.
She's not Anna Kendrick, though.
Oh, I know you like her. She's right up your street. This you'll definitely like this one. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I have to say.
Do you think there's any significance to the character having autism? And the way it's phrased as so advantageous to him. I know it's different for different people, but I remember liking that element of it, that it was brought into a mainstream environment, but not made an issue of. And maybe there was some tropes and stereotypes that people might not have but they might have issues with. But kind of, I think it was kind of interesting.
Yes, I agree. The fact that he's on the spectrum and such,
by autism might think. Do they think, well, there's someone? Yeah. Or do they think, they're exploiting our condition? I don't know what it might be.
I know, after your RFK or whatever, RFK Jr. said they can't do this and they can't do that. Actually, they can become serial killers the same as anybody else.
That's
hired gunmen and be very good at it.
There's no limit to the options.
There's no limit to the options. Not that I'm suggesting that's what all the people with autism should become.
But we're all the same.
The doors are there for exactly.
Yeah, we all have our little.
The doors are there for you if you would like to become a hitman.
There was a kind of a hook towards the end, a reveal of the first accountant. How significant was that? I'm trying to remember whereby he had an assistant. Someone was assisting him, and then we learned how.
Oh yes, that's part of this as well.
I know what you mean.
Which is sort of expanded the
world of it. Yeah.
No, that's sort of that comes fairly clear in the first one.
There's some quite nice relationship analysis in that. In the accountant as well too.
Oh, and in this one there's a similar thing as well because he's actually. It starts off and he's he's decided to go speed dating. And so it's like
saw that in the trailer.
It is looking into kind of the deeper aspects of this character's growth. It's 7 years on from the first one, so in that sense, and he kind of has a bigger background team, but sort of based in the similar. I don't want to be giving too much away from the first movie in case somebody wants to watch that over the weekend and then go and see it.
Watch it, yeah.
Because I think it's on Netflix. I think as far as I know, but I definitely recommend if you're sitting in some evening, just throw it on. You know, it's not going to change your world, but you're definitely going to walk away from it and say, "Oh God, that was a good."
Yeah,
movie.
I said a couple of weeks ago about good films, big films. You know what I mean? It can be hard to find them. It's one of them.
Yeah.
It's you know what I mean?
It's a smart action film.
It's a shoot 'em up, do this, that, and the other. It is what it is.
And he's different, but he's cool. That's what I liked about it. He was different, but cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's what I like as well is, in Daredevil, we'll say, which is a similar type of thing, it's somebody that has a vision disability and that, and yet they're
able
a
to.
superhero.
Yeah.
But the angst
you don't
puts
like
me
the
so
angst.
off it. Whereas this guy he is what he is. They were raised in a particular way and he is what he is and this is what it is. And
it's weird that you compare him. It's weird that you
compare
compare him to Jack Ryan because he played Jack Ryan, and you're comparing him to Daredevil, and he played Daredevil in the movie.
But
that is the complexity of her analysis. You see, you think this is an accident. Everything is interwoven. It's all.
She was planning this last night at 1 a.m. She was like, "Wait a second, I'll bring Daredevil into it."
Exactly. It's like she's like. No, she's standing there with her hand on her chin, and there's a cork board.
Yeah. Like when I watched Twin Peaks.
The twine is going down
between them. Daredevil accountant, Jack Ryan.
Like when I watched Twin Peaks.
Wow,
Lost.
You really get Fionnuala.
Of course I do.
Really get her.
I wish.
I thought she was just. I thought she was just a bluffer.
She stands there with her glass of whiskey, and you can. As she looks at the board, the ice cubes are rattling, and then she takes a sup, puts it down, and goes to bed because her work is complete. Something along those
After
lines.
all that, watch The Accountant. The Accountant
one
one.
and two.
It's very good. And 2 is in the cinemas
and
now.
it's very well received.
Yes,
and it is a good.
And I'm dying. I couldn't go, but I want to see it. I want to see it.
Date movie. It is a good date movie as well, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff happening. I don't think anybody would walk away from it and say, "Oh God, that was a waste of 2 hours of my life."
Yeah. Yeah.
you definitely would, you know what I mean, enjoy it.
All right, get to the cinema, watch The Accountant 2. And if you're at home this weekend and want something that's good to watch one of the evenings, and in fact, you can stay up and watch it on Sunday evening potentially because you might not have work on Monday. The Accountant is on one of the streaming platforms. We're not quite sure which. Back with more, and our first item from Michael after these.
Get ready, Donegal. The Letterkenny Motor Show is back, happening Saturday 10th of May from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the ATU campus. See the latest new cars and vans from 11 local dealerships showcasing 20 top motor brands all in one place on one day. Brought to you by your local franchise motor dealers, it's a day to celebrate driving, style and innovation. With entertainment and fun for the whole family, this is one show you don't want to miss. Proudly supported by First Citizen Finance, Letterkenny Chamber, the Society of the Irish Motor Industry and Britain Insurance. Visit letterkennymotorshow.ie for full details.
Hoka, the brand that has changed running shoes at Brian McCormick Sports. The ultra-cushioned game changer, Bondi 9, will give you a soft and bouncy transition from heel to toe. Enjoy the increased stack height with a new premium midsole. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click on bmcsports.ie.
We love better value at Dunn Stores. Pick up a large bottle of your favourite beer, like Heineken and Peroni 620ml to 660ml range, now just €3. And mix and match 3 for €5 on a range of tasty treats and soft drinks, like 7-Up Zero 2 litre and Tato Snack 6-pack. Dunn Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Prices subject to deposit return scheme fees. Please drink sensibly.
Every decision, moment, and experience has shaped who I am today. I still live at home with the support of a wonderful team who provide home care with respect for who I am, empowering me to live my life my way.
Your life, your way. Visit dovida.ie.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is
25 past 11. Guess where I was last night?
At home.
The circus.
The
circus. Yeah.
What was it like? I haven't been since they got with the animals
brilliant.
and all that.
You know, me, that's exactly what I said. I didn't want to see elephants doing handstands. I wasn't interested in that kind of crack, or people with whips and all that. And it's all completely different. Do you know what it's like? I thought it was like being at an episode of Britain's Got Talent or something. Do you know, whereby there's, you know, different trapeze acts, or there's one, it's Duffy's Circus I went to last night, and I absolutely loved it. There's some crazy stuff. There's a robot, or a laser robot, and it's absolutely amazing. It really is fantastic, where it's a guy and he's, you know, controlling lasers and stuff. 3 guys in a tiny little circle on motorbikes. Didn't really need to see it, if you know what I mean. There was a lot of peril. Do you know that sort of I'm glad you can do
was
that.
it look through your fingers sort of
Yeah,
jobby?
I'm glad you could do it, but how did you practice that? At what point did you say, right, there's 2 of us in this circle, right, you come on in, you, we can probably squeeze a third in. And the 2 young Duffys, I don't know if the grandson's a Tom Duffy or not, but they do an act, 2 big circles and a big spinning thing, and it's very impressive as well, and some other great stuff. Great,
it sounds like a lot of skill,
it.
a lot of skill on display across the board. But it's skilled people doing it.
And there's a sort of the continuities done by a clown. He's brilliant as well. Very funny. But really good, and I was so pleased that you can have such a brilliant circus experience, and no animals are at peril either.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to sound all woke and all.
No, but no.
But yeah, thought it was
no,
good.
we should. I think we should all be aware of things like that. I agree with you. Like, I mean,
Johnny Woke says, at the circus, no surprise there, Greg. Johnny, please, if you're going to make a joke, just make it so you can say something like, you know, at least, well, there was more than one clown there. We know that. You know, Johnny, if you're going to have a go, think about it. Like, all the material's there for you.
It's all laid out.
It's all there, son. Just make a proper joke out of it. You know what I mean? You know, 1 clown in the ring, 1 clown in the audience anyway.
Boom.
You know what I mean? Come on, Johnny, work with it. You're called Johnny Woke. Woke up. Appreciate all the feedback nonetheless. Right, okay, so I enjoyed that. That was my thing. And I also watched a film called Drop. which is great.
What is it?
It's like Hitchcocky, but in a
new.
modern thing. It's a woman who has had a difficult experience in her life, and she goes on a blind date, and she's in this restaurant, and next thing she starts getting airdrops on her phone.
Ooh.
And she's on a date with she's on her first date with someone she's been chatting to. Is it him? Is it? And then the story progresses, and there's peril, and it's tough to watch because it's so tense, if you know what I mean. But it's a real throwback.
Any names? Like in terms of
actors?
Big. Nobody. Okay. Sometimes that works in the favour of some.
That's because I don't know them is not because I don't know them doesn't mean
they're not names.
Massively famous.
Sure, I get you mean.
Yeah. But really good.
And that's
film.
Drop. Okay.
Yeah, really
I'll
good
Google
film.
that or Wikipedia that. No. But there's so
really
much you can't be on top of things. But yeah, that sounds like it.
So there you go. Let me see. I want to say hello to someone here before I talk to you guys. It's David James, the mid-20s voice of country. Good morning, James. How are you getting on? David, sorry.
Careful. Morning, Greg. How are you?
How are you getting on, buddy? Come here. We're looking forward to you on the big stage this evening. You are on the Late Late Show. Brilliant stuff. Well done, David.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. You know, it's a huge honour to be invited on to the Late Late Show. You know, I suppose it was part of everyone's house growing up. You grew up watching it on Fridays, and I sort of feel sorry for the younger generation of today because I grew up watching my idols on it, and now they're going to grow up watching me on it. So it's a great honour to be invited on.
Yeah, okay. You're going to be there, Claudia Buckley, Jerry Guthrie, and it's part of a special centenary, isn't it?
Yes, this year the Grand Ole Opry is celebrating 100 years. And, you know, it is the heart of country music over there in Nashville. It originally started out in the Ryman Auditorium. That was the home of the Grand Ole Opry. And then it moved out to their new premises out in Opryland, which is just known now as the Grand Ole Opry. So we're on there to mark 100 years of the Grand Ole Opry. And I suppose it's great that the country music is getting that platform here in Ireland. On the Late Late Show.
But see, the reason it is, David, is because that's when they do the big numbers. You know, no harm to the other amazing artists in different genres that we have in this. But the bookers know you put country on the Late Late Show and the people love it. So, you know, I think it's almost the stars are providing the entertainment for the show as well as the show providing the platform for the entertainers.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, not everybody is able to get out and go to the gigs every weekend, but there's so many people who still love country music, still love to watch it, and so it's a great opportunity for them. And as you say, anytime country music is on the Late Late Show, the viewing figures, it's only second to the Toy Show, and that just shows how strong it really is.
So this is not a country special as such. This is just a performance they're putting together with you guys to mark the centenary of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville.
Correct, yeah. It's just a regular show, and then they're doing that feature on 100 years in the Grand Ole Opry. So it is really, really lovely. I know I keep saying it, but it's really lovely to get the call to be invited on to that show. It's a huge honour, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Did they contact you individually, or did they say, look, this is the kind of a performance that we're looking for, you know, who do you want to work with? Or how does that work? I know it's a bit behind the scenes stuff, but just curious.
Yeah, they very much call the shots up there. They decide what's happening. They decide when it's happening and how it's happening. So they contacted us all individually to see if we'd want to do it first. And when everyone accepted, we got together then and we chose a song alongside them. And I think it's a song that really does represent the Grand Ole Opry and represent the heritage of country music. So we're excited for it.
And are you going to give us an idea of what it is, or do you want people to tune in?
I think we're not allowed to say, but tune in this 9:30 tonight and we'll be on there and you'll see.
Great stuff, David. It's great to see you getting the platform that you deserve. Thank you very much indeed. And obviously, of course, his day-to-day platform is here on the on Highland Radio at 2:30. Also on tonight's show, Tánaiste Simon Harris, Lottie Ryan, and the boy band stars Keith Duffy and Brian McFadden. It's an interesting lineup. David's at the star, Claudia's there, Jerry as well. But it would be like if my guests were like, and maybe they should be, but I've just interviewed someone from the radio station. I better shut up now. I'm walking myself into something. Right, okay. Let me see. I want to talk. Can we go back to the cinema? The Four Mothers, if that's
Oh,
okay, just in case anyone's planning a wee cinema trip this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it's still in the cinema. This goes back a few weeks.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, but this was the reason I thought it was worth mentioning, even though it might be out of date, is that it's a good Irish film, and I think it's always good to shine a light on good Irish films. This is a comedy, and we didn't realize it's a remake of an Italian film from 2008. It is the story of a young man who is gay, who has a great opportunity ahead of him. And he's about to have a book tour in America, and everything is just opening up for him. His mother has recently had a stroke, and she just needs full-time care. So he's kind of juggling these two things. And his close group of friends are very similar. They're a very similar demographic. They are gay men who are also looking after their mothers. And they're all sort of sharing their woes about the fact that, and it's done in a comedic way, like there's no real angst here, but it's just that they have these pressures. Now, there's a big queer event coming up overseas, and the lads would all like to go, but of course they all have these commitments. And basically the setup of the movie is that his three best friends, without really consulting him in any way whatsoever, dump their mothers on him for a long 3-day weekend just in the middle of all the crisis. So that's what the story of the film is. This guy who is trying to figure out how to maybe put his mother in care for like 2 weeks if she'll do it. She doesn't want to do it. Suddenly finds himself with 4 mothers in the house. 4 women of a certain age who don't like each other and do not want to be there. And they each have very specific needs in terms of how they sleep, how they eat, what time they get up, whatever. And out of that situation comes a lot of really good comedy.
Well, they've set it up, haven't they? Well, where do you want to go with that? You can do whatever you want, really.
And you've got a really good cast. For me, Fionnuala Flanagan playing his mother, the main mother in it, is fantastic. I grew up watching Fionnuala Flanagan in a Western series in the 70s called How the West Was Won. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who will remember that show very fondly. But she has been in any number of projects over the years. In the 90s, she played Data's mother on Star Trek The Next Generation for a very memorable episode. And in more recent years, she was on Jason Isaacs' crime series Brotherhood, which I loved, and I thought she was fantastic. I've always loved Fionnuala Flanagan. She's an international star, and it's great to see her doing this great Irish project. And I'm just got to say, I don't like giving away stuff, but her character isn't able to speak because she's recovering from a stroke. And her character speaks using an iPad or a tablet. And she communicates by typing these things out. And there's great comedy from things like the first night the ladies arrive and she has typed out, "They must go." And she just keeps pressing this when he's trying to make peace. Well, ladies will make the most of it. They must go. They must go.
Even her facial expression.
She's fantastic. So it's the misadventures, and I won't say any more. I mean, we both really enjoyed this a lot. They have a very busy, packed, long weekend. He's trying to decide whether he can go to America, and obviously he decides he will. Then he decides he won't. Then he decides he will. So we get that whole catharsis as he figures out by the end of it what he's going to do. But I thought it was a really funny, really lovely film. You agree? You were on board as well that night.
Yeah, no, I did. I really enjoyed it. I mean, there was some really sad pieces in it because it tackled aging and how the ladies themselves felt about it and how people saw them. The way as they were aging. So there was a bit of that in it, which was kind of sad. But it did have a nice sort of a resolution and that kind of thing in it. And as you say, there was a lot of lighter moments in between that kind of thing.
And it's got Niamh Cusack, Dermot Malloy, and Panty Bliss is in it as well.
Okay, did they make any attempt to sort of talk about the stuff you talk of?
Oh, they do.
I mean?
They
so
talk.
You know how sometimes we sort of we confront things, but not necessarily in the environment that we expect to. So in
They do in small ways, but really it's more about the main character, which is the son.
Yeah.
And it's about his own emotional kind of stuntedness, really.
Yes.
The way
He has to, I'll put it this way, he has to make peace with some demons from his own past. And they all come out in a visit to a psychic whose husband wields a shotgun outside at low flying.
It's more. The focus is a little bit more on him. and his development throughout it. But the women do obviously get to talk about it, amongst themselves and that kind of thing.
All right.
So it
I
does
think
have
the
some
women
of
are.
that in it.
I mean, my take on it would be I agree with you completely, and I would say that the women, the female characters, are interesting and well written, and each of them has a very unique voice.
I have a feeling that this film could hit differently depending on what mood you walked into that cinema in. or maybe what your status is in your life.
Yeah.
It's that. It sounds like, because sometimes I can watch a film and I'm like an emotional disaster, and other times I could see it something
completely different way. Yeah.
Right, we're going to get a weather forecast for the weekend, but I think the weather's kind of predictable, so we might get a sense of what the weather's going to be like now for the next couple of weeks. So we'll have more from Michael, we'll have more from Fionnuala, and Kenneth Connolly from the Donegal Weather Channel will be joining us after these.
Ready to order your 252 Kia? Then get to iMotors Letterkenny from Thursday, May 15th to Sunday, May 18th. Explore the exciting new Kia range with cutting-edge tech, bold design and unbeatable value. Donegal's #1 selling Kia brand and Donegal's #1 selling Kia electric brand. We're taking 252 orders now. Your perfect car, built your way. Saturday 10 to 5, Sunday 12 to 4. Don't miss it. iMotors Letterkenny.
iMotors, fearless generation.
Looking for the ultimate school tour destination? Discover the largest family entertainment complex in the Northwest, Century Complex. Dive into fun with our soft play area, conquer the indoor crazy golf and enjoy a private cinema experience with packages available. Call 07491219976 to book your adventure today.
Ready, set, DIY. The Great Paint event is here for the bank holiday weekend, Friday 2nd until Monday 5th of May. Save 10% of all coloured tram paints. Dulux Weather Shield Colours 10 litre buy 2 for €140. Cubernol Duxback 5 litre buy 2 for €25. All this and more in store at Homeland Letterkenny. See homeland.ie.
The days are getting longer, the sun is making an appearance, and that means barbecue season is just around the corner. At Maple stores across the county, we've got you covered with quality charcoal, fresh meats, and all your sunny day essentials. Pick up something refreshing to toast in the sunshine, treat the kids or yourself to some delicious whipped ice cream, and don't forget your favourite Maple coffee. Follow your local Maple store on Facebook for weekly offers, and remember, we also sell fuel too. Maple stores, fresh, convenient, local.
Right, that's not the ad break I thought it was. Now, Kenneth Conlon is from the Donegal Weather Channel. Kenneth, how are you getting on?
Not so bad, Greg. Enjoying the weather.
Indeed, and the weather can be very temperamental at times, where we can have periods where you might not necessarily know with any certainty what's happening tomorrow, and then other times where sort of it's laid out in a way that you can have a little bit more certainty. So I suppose first and foremost for us here in the Northwest, what does the long weekend hold in store?
Well, the good news is that there's not much sign of rain. Maybe tomorrow morning you could be talking like just around dawn. There could be a few isolated maybe patches of drizzle showers, nothing major. But apart from that, we're looking like we're going to see a pretty good sunshine at the weekend. There will be a mix of cloud at time, but it does look like it's going to be dry as well the whole way through Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But it's not going to be massively warm. That's the only thing. Temperatures you're looking maybe in around 12 to 14, 15 degrees. But I suppose in the sunshine, out of the breeze, it'll feel warm with the sunshine and the times.
Why are we seeing such extreme weather? Why are we seeing such variance in temperatures? So you'll have the south that could be, up to 10 degrees warmer than the north. Is it sort of competing air masses, or what causes that?
Well, at the minute we had got an area of high pressure in place, and I suppose it's all to do with the position of the high pressure. So if let's say the high pressure is centred just to the northwest of Ireland, you could get a warmer airflow coming from the southeast. That would generally lead to the warmest conditions up around the west northwest. And if the breeze is coming in from the southeast, it's going to be that bit cooler around the coastal areas. So that's why sometimes you'll see the big temperature fluctuations between, let's say, even coastal areas and inland areas. You would see it during the winter time as well, Greg, where you might see snowfall further inland, but it might be more sleety or rain around the coastal areas. So it would be similar to that, so it would be.
Yeah, and in any sort of warm peaks we've had so far this year, not all, I don't know, my memory's not fantastic, but it seemed that the west, actually, in the northwest, the west and north, we're getting better temperatures than the east and south, but that depends, I suppose, where the dominant high pressure is. So, is there any certainty, as much as can be, in terms of the next couple of weeks, Kenneth? Because sometimes when high pressure's about, you can predict with a little bit more certainty.
Yeah, at the minute, there's actually fairly strong confidence in the forecast up till around the middle of the month anyway, that high pressure is going to stick in place. So when obviously you have high pressure, you're going to see a lot of drier weather here, and it looks like the jet stream is going to be more so down across parts of like France, Spain, and Portugal. So all the rain that we would normally get is going to be kind of more so diverted down that part of the world. So it is. But it does look like it's going to be fairly dry up till the middle of the month. The European and the American weather forecasting models actually are fairly showing similar kind of forecasts with high pressure in place. And potentially maybe at the end of next week, into next weekend, it might get that a little bit warmer again. So with temperatures back up in the high teens, maybe into the low 20s again. So it will.
Nice one. Cheers, Kenneth. That's Kenneth Conlon there, and you can check out the Donegal Weather Channel for more updates. We appreciate his time.
Saturday Rewind with Rory Farrell is coming to you live from Sweeney's Hotel in Dunloe this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. to celebrate the launch of their stunning new ballroom, perfect for weddings and functions for up to 120 guests. Visit from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Check out their wedding packages and enter the draw to win 30 free guests for your big day. That's Sweeney's Hotel in Dunloe this Saturday.
B&Q's Big You Can Do It sale is now on. Save big with unmissable deals like 20% off selected garden furniture and barbecues. So you can grill and chill in your garden for less. Shop in-store or at DIY.ie. You can do it when you B&Q it. Ends 5th of May. See DIY.ie for details.
Minister calls emergency TB summit. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, Minister Hayden prepares to unveil new TB eradication programme. We reveal Arrivo's earnings rise by 13.5%. Crunch meeting of mart managers over credit. We talk to farmers who are waiting over a year for their acres payments. Why are sheep numbers in the West plummeting despite record prices? Green diesel price hike. Key deadline approaches for cap-based scheme. Plus, we talk to two brothers encouraging farmers to take charge of their health. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Get set for summer with all new arrivals dropping every week, from fashion to footwear and homeware to cosmetics. Discover more in-store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
Well, you got a pretty decent look at the weather forecast from Kenneth, didn't you? But just to reiterate, today largely dry with a mix of cloud and sunny spells. Potentially some light showers along the coast, so they'll be few and far between. Temperatures 13 to 16 degrees. Now, Kevin from Dunloe. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Greg and the TV duo. Finally got to finish Reacher. Enjoyed the show. The finale was like Wreck-It Ralph with Paulie, the show baddie, that one was twice the size but not twice as smart. And there'll be another Irish surname in next season to go with the O'Donnell and Duffy. Speaking of Anthony Michael Hall, you'd forget he was the scrawny kid in Weird Science, but I happened to come across him recently on the Breakfast Club 40th anniversary panel where Emilio Estevez finally attended and still looks as young. Enjoy the long weekend from Kevin in Dunloe. Kevin, thanks so much.
Kevin,
we really love your...
Where did you see the Breakfast Club 40th panel? That's my favourite movie of all time.
Okay, never heard of it, embarrassingly.
You've never heard of the Breakfast
You
Club?
must have.
Oh
No?
my God, it's like iconic.
Well, that doesn't mean that doesn't do anything with me.
Molly Ringwald. No, Emilio Estevez,
it's not
Judd
working.
Thingy, and they're all like
Judd Nelson.
Judd Nelson, and they're in detention.
Okay, we've lost another person down the reality TV rabbit hole. This time it's Fanula. And the programme's on Channel 4, and it's Married at First Sight Australia. You know, this is the beginning. If you like this, yes?
I know.
Like you thought cutting cakes was bad. Wait till you
No,
start
I
this
don't
stuff.
mind cutting a cake, and it's not even cutting. Is this cake?
Is it a cake or not?
Is it cake? Is it cake? Is a fantastic.
Still
show.
haven't seen that show.
Oh, you should totally. You're missing out.
I feel like I'm probably not missing out.
I've been up and down to Galway, and when I go to Galway, I am at the mercy of my daughter's television likes and dislikes, and a lot of it is reality TV program. She loves a good reality TV show, and she's obsessed at the moment, as I know so many are. So I'm not trying to say like that there's anything wrong with it. People really love it. I think it's terrible. Married at First Sight. First of all, the premise of it is terrible, that you just rock up in a wedding dress and marry some lad, and then after an extended period of time of you living together and kind of trying to sort out your lives together.
Counselling too. They do almost marriage counselling.
Well, they do kind of chat to them. It's
right.
But like these are the people that are counselling them are the people that are behind the program and that are actually that put them together.
Okay.
So they're invested in.
Well, one would assume.
Yeah.
And then if you still want to be together at the end of it, you have a second ceremony that kind of makes it official that you definitely are married. So
Morally, have you an issue with it?
Oh yeah, I mean, we seem
Like
to.
we're all each to their own, right? We're
I
talking
know,
about
absolutely.
a television
and
show.
I know everybody likes to watch, kind of it's car crash TV, and I can understand why people
Yeah.
really enjoy it. And then probably if I was back in my 20s and 30s again, I'd think, oh, this is, because you like to see people, But for me, I have to say, I just want to reach into the television and, clip them around the
Shake
ear
them.
and tell them to cop themselves on, like.
Do they want to get married or do they want to become famous?
Oh, well, do you know what I mean? And I just also I worry about all of these shows that are, you've got like Naked Attraction, you've got now a new one now, The Honesty Box, you've got this one, Married at First Sight, Love Island, all these things. What is it teaching people about love and relationships and
or intimacy?
That's
really.
a whole moral
intimacy as well.
Yeah, I
too.
just they're straight away into this. Anyways, I have an issue.
Like,
with
it doesn't
it.
impact me or you or Michael because
No,
we know the score, right? But like with
16,
Love Island, you sort of
17
hop
or-
into a bed with one fella or girl one night. Oh, that's not working. You hop into the next. You exchange bodily fluids, kissing, whatever. And then then you have people that are not in a relationship, but they could be in the same management team, and they end up being pretending to be married for the next 2 years.
I know, but all of them are.
And it's also
it's very
fake.
funny. It's all very.
It's trivializing things that are.
I just think it trivializes love and relationships, and also, I mean,
To the impression
what
of
it
it,
must
definitely.
take to keep a relationship going. You know what I mean? Like people who are married or in long-term relationships, that doesn't happen.
Well, see, we
without
can't have to
people putting in work. and
Yeah, but I
effort.
mean, if it becomes relationships,
I would imagine. I don't
but
know.
relationships,
I haven't a clue. I don't know.
Relationships become disposable, right?
For me, you have
as
to be an
this-
adult, I think, to be in a relationship. I don't know.
As soon as an issue happens, you just move on,
Yeah.
know, and often then maybe there could be children involved and all that kind of stuff.
So the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I've seen a couple of them.
So you weren't converted, you're not in the rabbit
It
hole.
is absolutely.
Couple of seasons or a couple of episodes?
A couple of episodes.
All right.
Jesus.
I don't know with you. I
Oh
think.
my God.
I mean, you may have watched
I
20
couldn't cope.
episodes. I don't know.
I couldn't cope. This
Right,
one
is there
now,
any
a
appetite
night-
to watch it again, though, out of pure disgust?
No. Oh no, not for me. It doesn't do it for
Right,
me at
okay.
all. But I can understand why people like it. Like there's
Is
one
it a
guy.
naive question, but do people fall in love? Do they be like, does magic
Oh,
happen?
apparently, but like how long, as Greg says, 2
Yeah,
years
I
later.
agree. I know.
Once
I
the
agree.
fame is the rose is off the bloom, do they
It's
really?
fame,
How
it's
many of them
fame,
stay together? I don't know. I mean, there's so many of these shows. Love is Blind, the 90-Day Fiance. I mean, there's obviously an
And there was
appetite
one
for them.
too. There was one episode whereby there were one show whereby there was like 8 guys and 8 mums, right? And the older women were interested in young guys, and the younger guys were interested in old women.
Oh,
but no one knew whose mom was who and whose. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Oh, do you mean there were the mums and this? You mean this? There was a relation. They were related. Some people
Yeah,
were related.
yeah. The
Oh,
mums
in the room.
and the sons. So you had 8 mums and 8 sons, right? But
okay.
the sons and the mums didn't know who was who.
Who was whose
But
mum.
then there's stuff like whereby the guys
That's a-
dance topless and then they all have
That's
to
a-
judge and stuff.
That's a weird one.
Now, there's
The
no
mum-
suggestion that there's any contact between
intimacy.
But
or
my
whatever.
point is
Yeah,
that there's
that's-
still icky situations.
weird.
I mean, like where does it end
That's getting-
morally? Where does it
Oh,
end?
they just seem to be coming up with new ways to be
but
icky.
but the way you do that is it's a
Yeah.
race to the bottom, isn't it?
Well-
You get more icky.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
It's
it is
just
a race to
cra-
the bottom.
Oh,
I
it's
agree.
crazy. Some
It
of
is
the
a
stuff
race to
they
the
come
bottom,
up
yeah.
with is crazy. I don't
Yeah.
know who has these ideas. But the reason
No
why I'm
pun
just saying
intended
about the
there.
Married First Sight in Australia is because this series in particular, if you are into it and you haven't watched it, you should totally get on it because
You're so confusing.
No, I'm saying if you're into
Oh,
these
you're
kind
so
of shows,
confusing.
and you
I
have-
object to this, but
so
here's where you
far-
can watch
Yeah,
it.
No,
exactly.
I know, I do object
No,
to it,
no,
but people
people-
really enjoy
Oh, yeah,
it,
the
and they
people
love
listening
it,
to this
and,
who'd be
and they
into it,
love
like-
that kind.
Yeah.
I used to watch Neighbours and Home and Away.
Yeah.
They didn't do this kind of thing on
I
Neighbours.
know, but there was a point in my life
Harold?
where I
I
would
watched-
arrive home and nobody talked to me until
Yeah.
after Neighbours and Home and Away,
Yeah.
because you could just switch off.
Yeah.
And you
I
just
watched-
watch
I watched Home and Away for about a
and
year,
it-
yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of like you kind of get rid of your stress and that, the way, because you can just turn your brain off and just kind of watch these people being crazy. But in the Married at First Sight Australia, in this particular season, I mean, first of all, there was one guy and he's standing at the altar and he practically looks at this poor girl that he's supposed to marry and goes, ugh. Terrible. And he's gaslighting her the whole way through it. Another guy since then, which I won't say which one it is, so anybody who is watching it to know, was in court this week in Australia, having to get a
restraining order,
legal restraining order.
See, this is going to be a Jeremy Kyle situation whereby someone's going to do something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
When you put it like that, when you mention Jeremy Kyle, you kind of think, this could get dark.
I don't know now how bad the stalking.
As we said, they're trivialising things, but you are messing with people's lives.
Yeah,
ultimately.
But people, these are fully grown adults that are complicit in it.
Oh my God, there was one, and the father.
But I agree. I don't think that's an excuse. Sometimes you have to protect people from themselves.
Yes, but one of them, because some of the family and friends come to the initial ceremony, and at one point during, after the initial ceremony, they talk to them, and they'd have ex-girlfriends or they have ex-boyfriends, and at one point, one of the fathers of the grooms was in tears, crying about how proud he was of his son, who was not married at first sight. I was like, oh my God, I would have to.
There are some weird.
Proud.
There are some.
That bar was low.
I know.
We are all different, and sometimes it's not great.
I was like, oh God, who's mine again? Clip round the ear, as my father would say.
Please wish. Yeah, but he says that to his staff. He said that to me once. He says, I'm going to give you a clip round the ear, Greg. Please wish the Inishkeel Drama Group in Portnew all the best tonight with their 3-act comedy play, The Queer Gunk. From all your followers in Portnew. The play is on tonight, Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 in the Inishkeel Hall, and it's €12 at the door. And if that's anything like the locally organised plays, is going to be at a very high standard with tons and tons of effort put into it. And if you can get along, go and see it. It's not the type of thing I would have attended 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. But I've seen a few of them.
You have now.
And I was blown away.
You really were impressed, weren't you?
And it's just the sights, the smells, the sounds, the intimacy. It's great fun. I'm going to a wedding after the show. My niece is getting married.
Oh,
lovely!
Nice.
Tried to talk her out of it, but they insist. Alicia and
has she met the groom yet? Has she met the groom yet? Is she meeting him later on?
No. He's just going to turn up, and we've got 3 months of counselling to see if we can make it work. So, married at first sight, Ballantrae.
Like it.
Love it. There's your podcast idea. That's the podcast idea.
Best of luck to them.
Okay, well, there you go. So
the weather's turned nice for her.
The
anyway.
weather's got nice, but it's
a bit
a
bright
little bit of a. It's going to be a bit of a. I'll get there. I'll be there. I have a reading. I shall be there. But we're going to play out with. No, I'm only joking. Quick pod. You've watched. You listened to a couple of them. Don't go far. The rest is entertainment. The rest of entertainment sounds like it could be a bit of fun.
Yeah,
we've got 2 minutes.
Okay, well, it won't take very long. I would like to ask Caroline some hard questions here about how closely she trademarked this entertainment slot.
Really?
Because this,
as if she came up with the
idea.
The
rest is entertainment. I listened to 2 episodes during the week, and it's suspiciously. It's suspiciously like what we do here.
Yeah. And it did start after us.
Yes, it did start after us.
A lot of people actually watch this that don't even come from here, which I find really quite remarkable.
Us.
It's kind of like a transition of people that leave at 11 and then others arrive.
You said that to me before.
Yeah,
you have said that to me before.
But that's appointment radio. You have to be as sometimes you have to push things a little, but anyway,
yeah. So basically, what you have here
2 Aegis
is Richard Osman. Richard Osman, the journalist and writer.
He's
the producer.
He's the ideas man. He creates these formats.
He's the guy. He was the guy who produced Deal or No Deal and those kind of things. And Marina Hyde, who has been a journalist with The Guardian for 20 years, and before that she was with The Sun, but I won't hold that against her. And they basically meet for an hour. They do 2 shows a week. One is a straightforward entertainment slot where they take 3 main stories. So I'll give you an example. So I listened to an episode and about a third of it was about Reacher. And not only did they review Reacher favourably, but they also talked about the incredible ratings that Reacher has. It is the biggest show on the planet right now. Like, it is the biggest show. They said absolutely every metric.
He does a lot of facts and figures in this, doesn't he?
He's the nerdy sort of guy. Yeah, a lot. It's got this nerdy sort of guy who brings all the facts and figures, and it's got the opinionated
just one
woman
example,
who's
by
got
the
all
way.
the opinions.
He mentioned
Does
an actress,
the woman know what she's talking about? We don't know.
He mentioned
Does
an
she
actress
remember?
earlier and says, and quite famously played Data's mother in an episode of Star Trek. Seriously?
Yeah.
No one else. No. Do you think 1,000 people at home went, "Oh, that's her"? Yeah, that's her.
In my circles, Greg, that's big information.
Yes, but your circle's tiny. We need to think big circles.
So
big
basically,
circles.
this is a very good. 2
All
million.
The they get
2 million listeners, because I know we're out of time, nearly out of time. They get 2 million listeners to this, and based on the 2 episodes I've heard, it's a really good show because both of them are funny.
I've
They're
seen
both
clips
witty.
from it, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
actually pleased that you give me the name of it because I've seen clips
Yes.
of him asking questions
Yes.
about prize money or and stuff. I didn't know they did the review stuff. So is it a BBC or independent production?
It's just independent. It's independent. Sponsored
Okay.
by Sky, and they obviously mentioned Sky favourably a few times because they've got paid
It's kind
sponsorship.
of in the same, you know, the rest is politics, the rest is history. So there's like a stable of them.
I
think
didn't
they're-
realise.
I think
Well
they're
done,
kind of
Fionnuala.
interconnected into that sort of a thing where there's sort of there's a little stable of them there because, you know, the rest is politics is very interesting as well, but it's obviously much more serious.
Michael Letty, thank you very much.
You're
Have a
singing
great
us
week.
out.
Yes, have a great week. Thanks so much for
Thank
calling
you.
up.
Have a great
Lovely
wedding.
to
Have
see
great
you.
fun at the
Great
wedding.
energy today. Thank you. Fionnuala
the
Rabbit,
wedding.
as always, lovely to have you on the programme, and we'll chat to you really, really soon. Now,
Absolutely.
thank you everyone for listening to the show, for watching the show, getting involved in it. Have a fantastic weekend. If you're out doing whatever you're doing, make sure you are safe and respectful of each other as well. Okay, have a fantastic weekend. I'll chat to you on Tuesday, but stay safe.